What is up, RotoGrinders? Dean here, Dean78904. If you want to get all technical, it is a glorious day down here in South Florida. 2 hours nonstop DFS, Mlb Dfs conversation. Taking y'all straight up the lock. Crunch time. We got Chief and Relatives back. Kevin Roth, he's back from vacation. He'll be on at 6:15, as well as Derek Carty and Dave Potts. Dave Potts, Cheeseisgood. Cheeseisgood will be on at 6:15 as well. Taking them up there, the three of us. It's a three-man booth because this slate is awesome. It is glorious. It's a big boy slate for sure. I believe it's a 13-gamer. No cores, some good pitching, a lot of good offenses. Is this our first iteration, Keith? Keith the Iceman? Ice Eyes? Have you and Chop done a show before? I don't think you have with me in the mix. If I have, I just blocked it out. I don't want to talk about it anymore. It was uneventful for some reason, or I was scarred for life. Has this happened before?
I think it's the first iteration for baseball this season. We did a couple NBA together, I believe, and a few baseball last year, I think. But first baseball one for the three of us this year. I think I might be wrong on that. But
so you and Chop have officially met. You've you've exchanged pleasantries of some sort.
Oh yeah.
As pleasant as Chop is willing to be.
Chop's always pleasant.
Pre-show, Chop's like, I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk. He only talks when he gets paid to talk. It's the chopper of heads. Head chopper. How's Tuesday treating you? How we doing on a Tuesday afternoon?
We're hanging in there, Dean. What a big night for you. Yeah, what a great day. I bet you must be on cloud nine here, man. You must be on cloud nine, Dean.
Well, yeah. I mean, South Florida, it is outrageous. And for the record, I did not believe. I thought the Heat were done. I'm not going to be one of these phonies out there. I thought they were donezo after the Derek White play. It's like, that's it. It was a good run. They overachieved. People shouldn't be out there dunking on them. Like, they had no right being in Game 7 here anyway. They barely made it to the playoffs. They should have lost to Atlanta. Was it Atlanta or is it? I think it was Atlanta. They were losing to in the fourth quarter, even get the 8th seed. But yeah, it's completely ridiculous. I still believe like Denver should. I don't want to say they're going to flat out mollywop them, but Denver should handle the Heat. And of course, just the excitement of knocking out. Kirkwood, I don't know what cloud he's on. He's probably not feeling particularly well. I don't know if he's lurking out there, but Kirkwood and his Boston Celtics, the old 1-2 punch of South Florida knocking out not just the Celtics, but the greatest hockey team ever assembled, I'm told, the Boston Bruins. So, and Boston is like, if we were going to like take a poll, Chop, right? We're going to take a poll of everybody and say, who's like, as a city, what's your least favorite sports city for whatever reason? Boston's not the most well-liked sports city. Is that fair to say, Chop? I'm just throwing stones down. I'm just kicking the Celtics not while they're down, but is that a reasonable take to say Boston, New York probably on the board as well?
I mean, like for me, I've let bygones be bygones and people do what they want to. But I've heard, yeah, it probably got something to do with the just inherent racism out there in Boston. Yeah,
sure, yeah, that can be it. A bad history there, obviously. Keith, do you have anything as far as what are the other sports cities that? Is there one that people actually like that you're like as a neutral team you just sort of root for? I'm fine with the Rays. I'm okay with the Rays. They seem like decent people.
They're just kind of boring though. Like there's no superstars. Hopefully Wander Franco actually becomes a superstar, but it's hard to root for Yandy Diaz and like just they have a really great team. Don't get me wrong, but there's like no superstars to root for on the team. I do enjoy watching their pitchers. There's certainly a guy to talk about today on this slate. But yeah, I just like you need a face of the franchise, and they just don't have that down in Tampa. I agree. Boston's definitely up there, top 3, I would say, as most dislikable. You got the Patriots, the Celtics, the Red Sox. I don't know. They didn't win for so long. It's hard to hate the Red Sox, but certainly Celtics and Patriots.
Yeah, they're talking about Detroit in the chat. Like I want Detroit to win. Let's get Chop's taking shots at Detroit in the chat. You're not rooting for let them get a W on the board somewhere. I don't know what Detroit did to you, Chopper. Who's like the most well-liked? Like maybe the Chargers. I think people like the Chargers. What? They're never gonna win, but they seem like a likable bunch. The Angels. I'm trying to see. I'm just trying to gauge the chat and see if the chat can throw out a least favorite and like just neutral party. Just I'm gonna root for this team. Who's America rooting for here? Denver versus Boston. I'm told. The TV execs are very upset. They want the NBA. They want a redo. They don't want this again.
Not rooting for Boston. You said Boston. I think you meant Miami, but you said Boston.
Is that what I said? Well, yeah. Well, good luck rooting for Boston. It's a contrarian take for sure. Devin says he likes the Diamondbacks, I believe, is what he's talking about there in the chat. Yeah, Arizona seems like a fine team. Sure.
Resident of Phoenix, I concur with that. They're kind of a fun team, a team on the come up for sure.
Yeah, they're a fun bunch. Yeah, for sure. I liked rooting for the Oakland A's, like when they were making the playoffs and they had like the rambunctious fans in the crowd, like, just whatever crowd they had. It was they got into it when it come playoff time, but now it's just turned sad. And then spoiler alert, have they been officially mathematically eliminated from the playoffs? It's coming soon because they have not won a game in maybe one game in the last 20 or so. Did they win last night? They might have won yesterday, and I'm talking out the butt, but they're bad. We'll just say that. There you go. Oh, the Cardinals is always a tricky one, right? Because they, my understanding, it's the greatest fans in the world. They've never said a bad word about any Cardinal. It's never happened on record. So who doesn't like the St. Louis Cardinals? But yeah, there you go. But officially, what's our answer here, Keith? The most likable franchise as a neutral party is who?
I saw the Cubs thrown out in chat. Unfortunately, I get to root for them every single day, and that's not fun sometimes. So it's certainly not the Cardinals for me. I don't have an answer for you. I'm trying to come up with something on the fly. I don't.
Y'all did Bartman dirty, man. That whole Bartman thing was so nonsense. And like Moises Alou, the way he overreacted like a child. It wasn't like a guarantee he was going to catch that ball anyway. I was watching that game with my friends, and I turned to my friends. I go, "That's going to be the game changer." And they went on. They scored 8 more runs that inning, and also there was an inning double play. Was it Miguel Cabrera or Derek Lee or Alex Gonzalez? So Alex Gonzalez boxed it at shortstop. You got an inning double play, and everybody forgets it. Alex Gonzalez is pumping the Bartman propaganda out there because he doesn't even remember that he's the one that ruined that game. It was on him.
Alex Gonzalez is to blame for Game 6 of the NLCS in 2003, no doubt.
It's actually true. I know.
Yes.
Yeah. Like if you're going to point to one person, that's the first person you point to. Also, guess what? You said it. It was a Game 6. It wasn't Game 7. Hey, we don't care about Game 6 from like 1997. Why are we even talking about? Who brought that
2003,
up?
Dean.
2003. Oh, the Marlins took the game.
97 was their first one.
Yes. They've won the World Series so many times. Twice. They've never lost in the playoffs, the Marlins. Marlins been in the playoffs twice. They wild card twice. World Series twice. They're all in. Well, they're all out. All right. We're talking about daily fantasy sports. We care about today and today only. Today, Keith, you kind of referenced it. There's a pitcher throwing baseballs today for the Rays against your Cubbies, who's really, really good at baseball. Also, both the pitchers you have some sort of ties to as far as the big boys. Zach Gallen for the Diamondbacks, not too far around the road from you, against the Rockies, who are horrific, and they're even worse on the road. That's what we're looking to as far as the upper echelon pitchers. There's some good mid-tier stuff we'll talk about. There's some great stacks I think to have a conversation about. But a 6 total for the Dodgers. We're not sure about Muncy. We're expecting him to come back later. Not officially in the lineup. That'll be a late lineup, but I assume word is he's probably going to crack it versus Jake Irvin. Give me your screenshot here, Keith. As far as the slate, what are you looking at? What are you honing in on? Because there's a lot to dig into. There's a lot of ways to attack it.
Yeah, there's a ton of ways to attack this. For me, you mentioned the top 2 pitchers. It's a top 4 for me. I have Joe Ryan and Logan Gilbert right there alongside Shane McClanahan and Zach Gallen. Ownership numbers in that range do not put them as equals. In my pool for today, they're basically going to be equal. I'm just going to spread out amongst those 4, have one of them in every single lineup, and 2 of them in as many as I can, of course. But there is some cheap stuff that we can play around with on this slate as well. Guys like Brian Bayo we'll talk about. If you want to get real weird, maybe you look into that mid-range, like the 8K range. There's a couple of interesting names, but all kinds of ways you can go on this slate. But for me, it's a very clear top 4 arms, with Bayo being the obvious cheap guy if you want to pivot and go with a little bit of a different build. But certainly some guys to talk about like Cortez and Kikuchi, even Giolito and Elder, you throw into the mix. There's a ton of pitching today. And then on the offensive side of the ball, like there are a dozen teams I think you could throw out there just without even thinking and want to stack them today. Seems like ownership is going to be really spread out amongst the bats. So you just, whichever stack you like, go ahead and play it. If there's a team that we haven't talked about that you like today, certainly they're going to be acceptable on this slate. No clear separators on the offensive side for me.
I feel the same way, by the way. Like if you like a stack, just play the stack and don't really be concerned with ownership. I think that's kind of the way it's going to be. Chop, what do you have to add as far as how you're attacking the slate? What are you doing? You're running 150, you're running 5, you're running some cash lineups, DK, Fanduel. Have you figured it out just yet? I'm still I'm thinking about buying another 555 ticket in that DK tournament. That
Whoa,
looks pretty
big
spicy.
baller, big
Hey,
baller. Must have won you some shekels on the heat.
I had a nice night yesterday on FanDuel. I came close. I came very close to winning the what is it, the Grand Slam or whatever it's called. Is it called Grand Slam? What's that their main tournament is? Whatever it is, like the 65 or 66 or 44 to enter. But yeah, I came close yesterday, so we're hot this week. And I feel like it's a good slate. And I like the payout structure. And I also already have one entry. And I want to have like two different routes basically to attack it. So
sure, dude, sure. Yeah.
How about yourself? Are you dipping your toes in the 555?
Oh no, too much for me, Dean. That's too much for me. Not for baseball.
Two-time millionaire winner, head chopper. It's
maybe for some football. I like to get up in the nosebleeds, but baseball I kind of like to stick to some smaller stuff. So I'm just playing FanDuel tonight. I run maybe 100 lineups out there. Play around with it after the show, but I don't want to get too invested in it. But as far as like the overview, yeah, I mean, Keith kind of nailed it. Like, there's a lot of ways to go, man. I mean, like 13 games, yeah. I don't even worry about owner. We've said this before. 13 games, just forget about ownership. It's going to be so spread, and there's no course field. Yeah, everything's so spread out. There's nothing out there that like people are going to gravitate to and jump to. So. Yeah, I don't worry about any of the 13 games. I'm definitely drawing some lines in the sand, and Xing some guys out of Xing some entire teams out of my player pool, and going from there.
What teams are you Xing out? Do you want to throw those out just yet? Have you decided just yet? Or some kind of on the bubble?
I mean, it's not like rocket science, but I'll go like Washington, the Yankees, Colorado, Oakland, the Cubs. Kansas City, I kind of don't believe in. There's like a bunch of teams down there that I don't think I need to like have any part of. Maybe there's a hitter in there, a couple of hitters within that entire range of teams that might make it back in the pool. But otherwise, just X and Y. There's so many games, man, and there's so many good opportunities near the top of the board that I don't think I want to. I don't think I need to like. It's just so much, Dean. It's sensory overkill with 13 games.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot to dig into. Whatever we don't talk about, I would just say this: like, it doesn't necessarily mean we don't like it. If you don't hear us talking about somebody or a certain team, just feel free to ask, because happy to elaborate on it. We want the show to be as interactive as possible as well. We're here for the next hour or so, talking our favorite pitchers, talking our favorite stacks. Keith, I know you like to run your standard 20. Typically, you do that. Is that the strategy today? Are we doing any single entry stuff, any 3-entry max, any big boy like a large buy-in stuff, or what's the plan of attack as far as the lineups you're playing today?
Yeah, the 20 entry max is something I generally play every day, and then I'll play the single entries all the way from $5 up to the 121, and that's generally like I'll build my set of 20 lineups and then throw my 4 or 5 favorite into the best single entries is generally my action on a given slate.
All right. We kind of talked about it as far as the pitchers, and that's interesting. You said, Keith, as far as, it's not necessarily 2 great pitchers, it's 4 great pitchers, and ownership's going to separate it mostly because of matchup, partly because of matchup. Gallon on DK is getting basically twice the ownership of anybody else. This is as a 452, so we'll get this refreshed within a half hour, an hour or so as new stuff starts coming in. The closer we get to lock, the more refined it is. But Gallon, 33.63% ownership. I did write this earlier today talking about I'm not a big home road splits guy when it comes to pitchers or just in general. There are reasons why. Sometimes I think it's interesting. I just thought it was worth noting. Gallon this year, 28.3% as far as Ks. The Sierra, 3.33, pretty solid. 5 starts this year, Keith, at home. 37.6% as far as strikeouts, 3.2% as far as walks. We don't talk a lot of ERA, 0.77 ERA. 1.95 xFIP, 0.66 WHIP. And then Colorado, the Rockies, they're dead last on the road in WOBA, dead last on the road in ISO, dead last in WRC+, and they also strike out the 6th highest rate. That's as a team collectively. I've not looked at their specific lineup today. That's my pitch for Zach Gallen being my favorite pitcher. You like McClanahan. I like McClanahan just fine as well. And I remember Dave Potts, he wrote it's a 1-1A situation, and I'm not going to argue with you if you have McClanahan ahead of him. Also, he's a tick cheaper. Gallen's a little more flexibility as far as your bats. So I got Gallen as my favorite, and the field does too on DK at 33%. Senga at 15%, I don't agree with. I don't agree that that's a correct number, personally. Maybe you tell me otherwise, Keith. McClanahan at 15%, Cortez at 14%, Elder 14%, Gilbert 14%, Gonsolin, he's got at least a W on layaway, if nothing else. And you mentioned Bayo. I hope he doesn't get juiced up too much because he was my favorite cheapie as well. But your thoughts as far as ownership there, and Keith, do you have a separator amongst those four? You're just going to kind of shuffle through and just kind of hopefully you land on the right combination amongst the top four pitchers?
I think most people do have a separator. I think most people agree that the Gallen is pretty clearly ahead of everybody. Maybe McClanahan's in that same conversation just because of all the Cubs strikeouts and the wind blowing in it a little bit there at Wrigley Field. Really good matchup for McClanahan as well. Him being a little bit more expensive, I think for cash games, it's very, very simply Gallen is your SP1. I don't think you're wrong by going with any of the top four, but just price considered, matchup considered, Gallen is pretty clearly on paper the best play. You save a little bit of money down from McClanahan. He has a better matchup than Gilbert and Ryan. I personally don't feel that way. Like I know Gilbert and Ryan have a little bit tougher matchups, or at least they're perceived to be. The Yankees and Astros have been two of the better offenses in baseball over the last couple of years. But I believe in both of these guys and the rise in their strikeout ability. Oddly enough, it's tied to both of them ditching a changeup and adding a splitter. So there's a legitimate pitch mix change for guys like Gilbert and Ryan. That's part of why I'm buying into their spike in strikeouts this year. Last year, we saw them both like around 24, 25%. This year, they're up to that 29% range, which is exactly where Gallen and McClanahan have been as well. So rather than it being a tier one of Gallen and McClanahan with a small drop to Gilbert and Ryan, I have like 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. And ownership is going to allow me to take an overweight stance, in particular on Gilbert and Ryan. I'm going to try to get even with the field on Gallen, but if I end up at 20, 25% of Gallen, so I can go triple the field on Gilbert and triple the field on Ryan, that's how I'm planning on building. McClanahan, I probably come in right even with the field, but Gilbert and Ryan are the two I definitely want to be well overweight on. I agree with you. I don't think Senga comes in quite 15% owned. I get it. He has the strikeout stuff that if he had replicated that start against the Rays where he struck out 12, I believe he would be in the same conversation. But because he only posted 6 strikeouts in his last game and the walks have just been such an issue, he's not on the same skill level as these other guys because of those walks and a little bit of a tougher matchup with Philly. He has a great ballpark to pitch in, but he's not on the same level for me. If he's catching that type of ownership, I'm going to fade him completely.
Yeah, Senga 14.6% walks. It's just the Ks are great, 28.6%, but the walks are bad and they work up the pitch count. I don't totally buy that number. I'm certainly not going to have 15% Senga. I hope the field does. He does obviously have the opportunity, the ability, if his ghost fork is getting chased, to strike out 9 or 10. I guess that's a potential upside, but I don't think, and you're not really getting a discount as far as price either. Chop, your thoughts here. Gallen at 33%, Senga 15%, McClanahan 15%. Cortez, man, he gives us so many fly balls, and you just never really know homer the fly ball stuff, but I think it's like 60% fly balls this year. And I don't know if the Yankees are aware of it or if they care about this such thing, but like his third time around stats are outrageous. Basically all of his home runs have come the third time he sees a hitter. So maybe they're proactive and they say, I know he's pitching well, but we're not going to let him pitch to whoever's hitting leadoff for Seattle a third time around. You see, he just keeps getting his face punched in and just pitching fine, and then disaster, blow up. Chop, your thoughts as far as the upper echelon pitchers. What sort of rules you're putting in there? I know you said you're playing basically Fanduel exclusively, which it's obviously one pitcher, but I don't know how ambitious you have to be or how far off the board you have to get on Fanduel, to be honest. I was making some laps before the show.
Well, you don't, because of what we said earlier, which is that there's no real hitting spots that just like jump off the charts. There's no Coors Field with great weather and all that other. So you don't have to you can do what you want at pitcher. in the high range. So yeah, Gallen number one for sure, but McClanahan's right there nipping at his heels, so that's good. I'm not a Cortez guy tonight. I think that he's been okay, but Seattle I think they're a better offense than what they've shown, and they've got some guys in the lineup pretty decent against left-handed pitching. I prefer not to go the Cortez route. I want to stay away from. Let me just look at the salary wise. Okay, so you got Joe Ryan. He's not bad. Joe Ryan's okay if you want to be a little contrarian. I can't see his ownership getting too high. The Logan Gilbert's okay. And who else are we talking about in the high range? Are we putting Senga in that high range?
You can. It sounds like me and Keith aren't really on him so much, especially if he's going to come in.
Because you come down to with this guy, you sit here and you put him in your lineup or you put a bet on him, whatever you want to do, and all you're doing is betting on will he have his forkball working that night. If he does, fantastic. He can mow him down, and that's fine. But if he doesn't, he's terrible. So do I really want to, when I've got all these other guys on the board already, do I really want to go that route? I don't. So even if he has a good game, can I equal that game from Gallen or McClanahan? Absolutely. So, yeah, I'm not on much. Those are the two guys in the high range that I have the most of, and I'll sprinkle in some Bryce Elder. I don't hate that one. It's a great matchup, and he's been pretty decent so far. So
yeah,
we can go that route. And then we'll talk about the mid-range in a minute. But there's a guy in the mid-range that stands out.
By the way, I did pull it up just for funsies, and it's small sample stuff, right? But Cortez, third time through the order this season, he's giving up 7.56 homers per 9, which that seems like a lot. That seems like too many. So his FIP is 1385. Go ahead.
I'll make the case for Cortez a little bit. I'm not playing him today because I think the 10K pitchers and above are in that good of spots today. I just don't have room in my lineups for him. But I do think there's a case for him. Last time I was on the show and he was on the slate with you, Dean, we were both on the fade, and he was like the most popular pitcher on the slate. It ended up working out that day. The positive for him today is the ballpark shift. He's moving from Yankee Stadium, which is one of the best homer parks in baseball, to Seattle, which has been the best pitcher's park in baseball, dating back to 2021. So it's part of why I like Logan Gilbert as well. Like the Yankees' power just doesn't scare me as much in Seattle as it does in New York. Cortez is about an average strikeout pitcher, but the Mariners have struck out a ton against left-handed pitching this year. On a different slate, I would have more interest in Cortez. I think he's a fine play. I'm not getting to him, partly because that 20% ownership, it's too hard to get over on that when I want to be overweight on the top four guys. But I think he's completely fine today.
Where do you have that stat, by the way? You said Seattle's the best pitcher's ballpark. They did it back to 2021.
According to...
I feel like I've seen otherwise. I was looking at this, like for home runs specifically.
What
you're talking home runs or everything?
Factors.
Okay. I think Fangraphs had it different for what it's worth. If you want to look at 2022, right, for home runs, Mariners were middle of the pack, a 99, 100's even, 100's average. I thought a similar thing too. Well, the Reds 116, that really jumps off the page. Colorado 111, but who do I trust? Who do I believe? I guess trust the StatCast stuff. Because in my head, I thought Seattle was very much a pitcher's ballpark as well.
I'm trying to pull up the 1 year stats, and park factors are noisy.
They changed the ballpark, didn't they?
Seattle? I don't think Seattle did.
I think they changed the ballpark like a year ago, 2 years ago.
Toronto did. Baltimore did. The Angels kind of did. I don't know if Seattle did.
All right, maybe not.
But
sure. they did just. Seattle did just drop their lineup though, and I like their lineup. I definitely won't be playing Cortez. I like the middle of that order for some stacks. They're going France, Julio, Teoscar, Pollock, and Suarez, back to back. I like that lineup, so no Cortez for me.
There's no big dumper. No big dumper. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Crawford leading off, by the way. I guess you don't want Crawford. You're cutting him out. You want to go 2 through 5?
The lefty on left, yeah, I think it could be a little bit better. I think they could have had I could do better than that. So there's 26 teams in play. I don't want to go lefty on lefty with anybody.
I saw Raleigh hit a homer the other day, and they showed somebody in the crowd at a sign that said the Mariners run on dumping. So there you go. Somebody having a good time with his, that would be better if they were playing the Red Sox. I don't think they were, but I don't know. That just popped in my head for no particular reason. Speaking of Boston, we have Kirkwood in chat. What's up, Kirkwood? His ears were ringing for sure. Hopefully he can drop some Juggalo bombs for the people. Chop, you got those Triple G homers for the people. You have your Chop facts. You got to hit the like button. Hit the like button. You subscribe and turn on those notifications. Do all those things, and eventually we'll get to him. Of course, Chop's going to give you his BBP play today. We don't Keith. I know Ice, Eister, Eyes. Do we have any sort of like freezing kind of gimmick for homers? We don't have anything, right? Is there any sort of you have any sort of nonsense like that? I don't think you do. Do we have?
No, I don't. No, nothing gimmicky.
Should we workshop it on the fly?
We can try. I'm not a real creative person, Dean. I don't know.
We have a chat. The chat, we're here doing a show.
Let's see what the chat can come up with.
And you're willing to listen, right? You're willing. You'll be stern, but if you like something, maybe you'll stick. Let's see if the chat can give you something good.
What about as an homage to Dean's favorite Christmas movie of all time, Eyes Wide Shut? We go Eyes Wide Open.
Realize. It's I was thinking one of my favorite tweets.
Oh, you're thinking. Oh, you got Randone on your mind. Since
I was just thinking of that tweet.
Since he got canned
it's
today.
an enlightening tweet.
Allegedly, he got canned today. I have no idea.
I'm not making an allegation.
That's what the rumors are. That's what the rumor mill is.
I was just thinking of a tweet that I like. That's all. You never randomly just think of one of your favorite tweets?
Let's move on, Dean.
I do like the idea of an homage to Eyes Wide Shut, but I don't know, Eyes Wide Open. I don't really know how that leads to like homers, but we'll see if the chat can throw something out. The Flaming Ice. There you go.
Don Easy in chat. He always posts anytime I post a win or anything on Twitter. He has an awesome GIF of an ice cube on fire, and that's like top notch right there. I don't know how we work that into home runs, but every time he posts that, I have to like it for sure.
There you go. Well, let's see if the chat can chime in and give you something we can work with. Something that's where the bar starts, at the flaming ice. All right. Some more going to be thrown in there in chat as well. Other pitchers. Was it you, Chop, that said you like somebody in the mid tier that you kind of teased? You didn't exactly say who it was.
Well, Keith already said earlier, but Bayo from Boston, he's awesome, man. He's getting there. He's young and he's starting to pick it up. So I can definitely get behind that against Cincinnati, and he's had a string of really nice starts, and things are starting to click for him. He's suppressing runs, roughly a strikeout per inning here in the last 5 or 6 starts. So I definitely like that in the mid range. That's my favorite mid range guy right there.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, man. Like, remember, there's those pitchers like Giolito. Once upon a time, Giolito was just like the worst pitcher in the league, and you would just attack him, and he all of a sudden turned into the best pitcher in the league. And I think that's what's happening with Bayo. Bayo, right before our eyes, you can see the stuff. The raw talent is legit. He's had some hiccups. He was bad last year. Started this season, he was kind of rough around the edges as well. But he's been really solid of late in the Cincinnati lineup. They're fine. They're okay. Some guys are contact guys. Some guys are homer. Some power. The power actually is not really there. Friedel and Steer, the two big power guys versus righties. They got to bring up that rookie. What's the De La Cruz? Is that the guy who's absolutely mashing? Keith, you're a prospect guy, I think. Is that his name?
They've got a couple of them. Ellie De La Cruz is awesome. That's and then Encarnacion Strand, I think, is the other guy. But yeah, two huge power prospects.
I guess they don't have to
bring a lot of people.
What's the urgency?
You're right. They're not going anywhere this season. CES is the other big prospect. I think it's Encarnacion Strand is.
Is he related to the other, like Edwin and Juan, or we don't know? Or
I'm not sure about that. It would not surprise me.
Not sure either. But yeah, I think I'm going to be over the field on Bayo. Is he going to be really popular? I know Dave liked him too, and this isn't me plagiarizing. I liked him last night when I was looking at the slate. I liked him first. I wanted Bayo too, and like he seems too cheap, especially on DK where he's 7K. I just believe in the stuff. He's like eye test. If you watch him, he looks legit as well. The ground balls are incredible. 58.9% ground balls. The Ks are pretty good at 23.4%. The walks are fine at 7.6%. Keith, are we going to be over? I'm going to be over on Bayo. Are you going to be over as well?
I'm going to be significantly over. I feel like this ownership number is a little conservative. He makes so much sense as a guy to save a little bit of money. I don't know how it works out exactly. Like, we think Senga's a little high. I could see like Gonsolin, Kikuchi being a touch high, and like just you take 2% from everybody and throw it on Bayo, and he ends up coming in at 20% instead of 14%. So I'm going to kind of plan for that a little bit and try to get around 40% of him for me.
What's the official take on Kikuchi? Because that's the one that I'm interested in, but I'm really squeamish about. Milwaukee against lefties they're a really bad team. They strike out a fair bit against lefties as well. Kikuchi this season, 42% fly balls. The roof is open in Toronto. I'm not sure what the temperature, and I guess that matters. 2.45 homers per 9. Hard hit rate at almost 50%, 48.4%. But this Milwaukee team versus lefties is pretty dreadful. I don't want to watch. It feels like this is a spot where Kikuchi gives up 2 or 3 homers and strikes out 7 or 8. Like this is kind of Hunter Greenish for me. I don't know what to do with him, but I think he's got to be in your tournament pool if nothing else.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you got to take a sprinkle if nothing else. I will play a Milwaukee stack as well, or at least hunt for some home runs against him. And I know we're dealing with small samples when we're talking about short season, like a third of the season, and against a certain handedness of pitcher. But in the small sample that we do have this year, Milwaukee has been not bad, atrocious against left-handed pitching, striking out over 30% of the time, the worst WRC plus in all of baseball at 69, and a not nice, and a WOBA of 274, 129 ISO. They're offering nothing against left-handed pitching. And now their best hitter, in my opinion, is Willy Adames, who is now on the IL. I'm taking some shots on Kikuchi today.
Adames concussion, is that what it was? I think it's concussion.
That was scary. Did you see that? Foul ball directly into the dugout off his dome.
I did not see that. No, I remember reading about it. I saw there was somebody that dove into Wrigley's center field, and that was Friedel. I think he stayed in the game. He was fine, I guess. But a foul ball got him in the dome. That seems hard to do if you're trying to do it. That's unfortunate. Hopefully he's okay. Good lineup, by the way, for Kikuchi as well. Like Taylor, almost 40% strikeouts versus lefties this year. It's a small sample, but he's always been a guy that strikes out a ton, kind of an all or nothing guy. And there's been no all. The power has not really been there versus lefties this year. Weimer has struck out a ton and not walking either. 2.2% in 44 at bat sample. He's got a lot of power, but he's a very much of an all or nothing guy so far in a small sample. Brosseau, another all or nothing guy, 31.8% as far as strikeouts, 4.5% as far as walks. Yeah, man, it definitely seems like a spot where Kikuchi can strike out 7 or so, but he can be frustrating. He's got his walks in checks this year. We'll give him that because historically he would walk a lot of guys and have like 90 pitches and through like 3 1/3 sometimes, but just 6.4% as far as walks. Chop, you have an official take as far as Kikuchi?
Yeah, I wasn't gonna play him. But then you look at the Milwaukee lineup, and there's just a ton of strikeouts in there, and there's only a few hitters in there that I even remotely have any, that scare you even a little bit. So just based on the lineup against him, I think you could take some stabs in tournaments. But man, I didn't want to play him. He kind of stinks, but the lineup against him is just so bad. We'll take a shot on him on Fanduel with a few, but I think I'll be underweight though.
We got, apparently, according to the Reds gal, the Reds are out partying last night, the Celtics game. Not aware of that. And, I guess Ellie maybe called him on Friday. And, yes, for sure he will be 2K on DK if that's how that plays out. Can't wait until – just like Lewis, right, for Minnesota, who's still just 2K. Obviously he was up last year. He tore his ACL. He's back, hit a homer in his first game, like 2 or 3 hits as well. Big game for Lewis. He's still 2K. Minnesota's like my sneaky team, by the way. We'll talk about the offenses later on. Chop, Jake wants to know about any love for Elder. You kind of touched on that as far as Elder. If nothing else, the matchup against Oakland doesn't really have like the same K numbers as some of the other guys, but ERA's been good this year, if that matters to you. And did we mention he's facing Oakland? He's not cheap, but he should be fine. The W theoretically could be on layaway. You don't need those points, but you'll take those points. Chop, what's your official stance as far as Elder? I think he was in your pool. I think you mentioned them in passing, if nothing else.
Yeah, he's got the matchup, the Oakland matchup today. So, and he's been fine. He's been acceptable so far. So, yeah, absolutely could keep him in your player pool, and I'm fine with him. Like there's a difference here between, your cash game team, man. So if I were on DraftKings or FanDuel and I'm running one lineup, I'm not getting too far away from Gallen, McClanahan, and Bayo.
Same.
But in a tournament, yeah, we can take a shot on a guy that he's high, he's expensive on FanDuel, but it's a pristine matchup, and he's been fine. He's right, just roughly almost a strikeout an inning here in the big leagues so far, and he comes with a pedigree that's not terrible. It's not bad at all. So let's give him a shot. Yeah.
By the way, Devin in chat, producer Devin saying, trying to think of Keith Baum's name idea, and I keep going back to Arnold Mr. Freeze puns. Yeah. Everybody chill. That was like Batman and Robin, Chop. I know you're a sucker for these kind of movies, but that you can't stand for that. That was terrible, right? You'll concede that the Arnold, Mr. Freeze, Batman, I think that was Clooney, correct? That was horrendous. You're on board with that thought?
I don't think I've seen very many Batman movies, man.
Dark Knight?
I've seen it. I think I've seen it once, but
Joker? Heath Ledger?
No,
what if you saw? You remember Heath Ledger? Why so serious?
Not a big Batman guy. R.I.P. Heath Ledger, though. Heath Ledger made one of the best movies, one of the most rewatchable movies of all time. A Knight's Tale. A Knight's Tale.
I wasn't sure which route you were going. I watched The Knight's Tale a couple of years ago for the first time because I lost a bet to Grant, and he forced me to watch it. It was fine. I wouldn't call it one of the most rewatchable movies of all time. That's an egregious thing. It really is.
Dean, the mix of the soundtrack and along with them is just awesome. The medieval times, but it's kind of brings it more up to date. Oh, it's phenomenal. What a great movie.
It's fine. I'm not here to knock
it. It's so entertaining, Dean.
There's a lot of movies that have been made.
Heath Ledger is fantastic. Oh my God.
Who's the next person in that movie you can think of? You got anybody?
Yeah, that redheaded guy.
That's what it says in the credits?
Yeah. It's good stuff, Dean. It's good stuff.
There you go. Shout out to the redheaded guy. If I'll throw it out there, by the way, if we get a nickname for Keith Homers that Keith accepts, we'll get you 1 week free of RG Premium. How about that? But it's got to be acceptable. It's got to be one that's worthwhile and worth using. So now you're going to think about it a little bit harder. Redskill asked a good question, by the way. Manaea, is Sean Manaea 100% the bulk guy? Because we're not really sure, but if he is, he's super, super cheap, Keith. Is it worth messing with? There's certainly an opportunity cost a pitcher today. I think this is more of a DK question because Manaea is pretty cheap over there. We saw this before where he came in as a bulk guy and it's just like a perfect storm. It worked out for him. Awesome. I think it was also a smaller slate, if I'm not mistaken. Is he somebody that's even worth taking a shot on when it comes to Manaea? Maybe he comes in and throws 4 or 5 innings or so.
I think he's worth having a conversation about for sure. Because he's in lineup HQ. Like I wasn't on projections today, so I haven't been completely tuned into the conversation. But I know we're pretty hesitant to project the guy if we're not sure. So I'm guessing there's something out there that we have at least a pretty strong inkling that Manaea will be the guy coming in behind Brebbia. I think that he is in play just because he allows you to do things with your lineup that other, like just his salary tag. I don't want to play anybody down there. Tyler Anderson's been terrible this year. Jake Irving is walking everybody. Ranger Suarez isn't going deep into the game. Zach Greinke is over the hill and doesn't have anything left. Like of that range of pitchers, he's very clearly the most talented. You have this matchup against Pittsburgh that I don't think anybody's scared of Pittsburgh. It's interesting, and it's definitely DK only. I wouldn't even touch it on FanDuel, but I think because of his price tag, he is in play on DK.
Anything else that we have to touch on as far as pitchers? I feel like we hit on most of them. Trying to see at the chat. The chat's asking about Bielak, but kind of sort of a more of a Minnesota like stacking against them perspective. Chop, is Bielak in your pool? He's probably not, right?
Hell no. No, Bielak, man. You crazy?
You're a Houston guy. You're kind of a homer sometimes.
Yeah, I'm a Houston guy, and I'm also, very honest about things, and I'm not going to play Bielak. Here's one we got in chat earlier, and I was kind of waiting until we got to the lower tier. I think Herbert asked about Ben Lively for Cincinnati. He's interesting. I don't think he's in my player pool. I'll say Boston has been good this year on offense, surprising. I don't think they're great. I'm not going to play Lively, but he's not bad. He's only throws about 90, 91 on his fastball, but he offsets it with his slider, which is only about 80 miles an hour. And I have to look it up, but I think I was looking earlier. I don't think he's allowed to hit all year long on that slider. He's interesting, man. It's a tough.
I was digging into him a little bit today too, just to back you up a little bit here, Chop. His slider has been outstanding this season. I'm pulling up the numbers right now. I don't have them off the top of my head. He has generated a 63% whiff rate on that slider, 35.7% put away percentage. Like it's a real strikeout pitch. So he's a journeyman. He was never a prospect. He spent some time in the KBO. If it was a different matchup, it's Boston, which is the problem. They're very left-handed, which sliders against lefties aren't always the greatest. If it was a different matchup, I would have interest in Lively because I am believing what we're seeing from that slider, just not the right matchup or the right slate for me, but good points there for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. I was looking at the same guy from a Boston perspective because Ben Lively, he's drank a cup of coffee or two here in the major leagues over the last 10 years or so, but basically the last 10 years he's been jumping in the minor leagues in the KBO. And he's not projecting great. I was looking at obviously the samples we have aren't huge, but the projection we have, the BAT has him at a 5.55 ERA. I know we don't talk about an ERA, but like a 5.35 FIP is where he's projected at. To be fair, Zips and Steamer is a little friendlier and not as harsh. How often is he throwing that slider, Keith? You have that number? Because obviously it's all small samples. Is that one of his key pitches? How often is that the
second most behind he throws his four-seam fastball 30.9%, his slider at 26.7%. So his number 2 highest usage pitch. And I think like the reason I'm on Gilbert today is because projection systems I think are a little bit slower to catch on to things like this. Like I don't think he's had this slider when he was coming up as a prospect. Even as a pitcher in the KBO, I don't think he had a slider. Just looking at his strikeout rates, obviously I don't have pitch data from the KBO, but he was never a huge strikeout guy in the KBO.
To your point, when he first came up in the big leagues, he did not have a slider.
Right. So I think it's something he's added this year, which is not reflected in projection systems. Very similar to how projection systems are slow to catch up to the success that Logan Gilbert has been having with his splitter and why I like him so much today.
It's always weird when a pitcher just like all of a sudden at like 30 is like, hey, maybe I should try throwing the ball this way. I mean, I'm not a pitcher and I can't get inside that brain, but it's just so weird. Like you didn't think about throwing a slider when you were 22? Like it never dawned on you? Like maybe I should try this.
That's why the reliever position is so volatile, because they can add pitches and just be awesome for a couple of years, or they can lose the slightest thing and be a one-hit wonder or be done after 2 or 3 years. That's why there's so much volatility outside of the really good starters.
Sometimes it just takes the right suggestion too, and you don't run into that guy that suggests
the right teammate that helps you out a little bit.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like I'm talking high school here, but when I was trying to spin a curveball, I wasn't having any success when I was just trying to learn it from my pitching coach. And then I found a teammate who threw his curveball with a slight spike in it, where you just raise your index finger up a little bit, and then I was able to do it after that. It's small adjustments like that I don't know. It takes guys 10 years sometimes to figure it out.
What's your comp, Keith? I didn't know you were a pitcher. Righty, lefty, or you kind of a fastball guy, a changeup guy, a curveball guy?
Righty with not quite enough fastball to get it done, so I had to rely on the junk a little bit. Really good changeup, developed a pretty good curveball as the career went on, but not enough to do anything with. You
ever hit somebody on purpose?
Yeah, absolutely.
You have a good story behind it? I mean, they deserve it because it was retaliation, or?
Yeah, I mean, you get into they hit one of your teammates, like that is an absolutely real part of baseball. Like if one of your teammate gets hit, like you're expected as a pitcher to go out there and hit one of their guys on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, I hear some hesitation. I'm not going to file a lawsuit on you. I saw last night that Mark Cuban was asking people, how many of y'all are streaming this game illegally? Like, who's going to mess up and say that? The statute of limitations, I'm sure, are up. Whoever you hit, I'm sure they're fine. They're okay. And they deserved it anyway, per the unwritten rules of baseball.
I mean, I don't have a specific story behind it. Like, it's happened more than once, is what I'm saying. Like, it's way more common than people pretend it is.
You were the guy they put in. Like, okay, we got to let's get Keith in here.
I mean, it just depending on the flow of the game, it would happen occasionally.
B-Shot in chat says the best comp for Keith is Stevie TPFL. So also
I was not on Stevie's level. Stevie could throw some gas.
Yeah, that's what I hear. He threw like upper 90s. There you go. Anything else in chat as far as pitchers? I don't think so. Let's do the summary as far as the arms, Keith. For those just joining late, they joined 5 minutes ago. What do they need to know as far as pitchers tonight?
So for me, it's 4 very clear guys at the top. I think ownership is going to condense around Zach Gallen and Shane McClanahan as the top 2 pitchers on the slate. I'm including Joe Ryan and Logan Gilbert in that conversation as guys I think who are just as good as them despite slightly tougher matchups. If you're saving money, I think Brian Bayo makes a ton of sense as the cheap pitcher. Interesting conversation around Sean Manaea as the cheapest pitcher I would play on the slate, but I probably stop at Bayo. And then in the mid-range, there's some interesting tournament options. I think Kikuchi is fine. I think Cortez is fine. And Bryce Elder is fine because of the matchup against Oakland.
Jared's asking in chat, SB2 Cash Bayo. I think Bayo's fine as an SB2 pitcher today. I'm not playing Cash, but that's probably who I would play SB2 on DK. Chop, what do you want to add as far as pitchers?
Not much. Cash game, 2 at the top are very clear. To me, Gallen, McClanahan. I would throw in Bayo as a third option to save a little money. And after that, everybody else for me is there's probably about 10 other guys, and they're all just tournament options.
By the way, just worth noting, no Cedric Mullins today in the lineup. No Bryce Harper. Maybe that's why Senga got a bit of a boost as far as projections. I bet that's why Senga kind of snuck up a little bit. Bryce Harper not in that Philadelphia lineup. Philadelphia Stott, Turner, Castellanos, Schwarber, Remuto, Baum, Marsh, Clemens, and Dalton Guthrie. So Dalton Guthrie, I guess, takes the spot of Bryce Harper. And is there somebody else that wasn't out today? Buxton is back, which is good to see. I feel like there's another player that I noticed was not playing, but maybe I'm just am I missing anybody here, Keith? I think everybody else is pretty standard. Christopher Morel back in the 9-hole. You'll be happy to know. Go back. You hit too many home runs. You haven't home for the last 5 days. Go bat 9th.
Because the lefty Mike Tauchman against lefty masher or lefty destroyer Shane McClanahan. You got to get him up in that lineup.
That seems like a great idea.
Yeah. Mancini hasn't been great against lefties. It's not great. Not great in Cubby land.
It's not even, is it left, right, left? Well, I guess they only have a couple lefties or one left. It's the only lefty, and he's batting 6th. Okay. All right. Aaron wants to know Fanduel Cash Gallen. That's fine. Yeah, you can play Gallen and Cash on Fanduel if you like the rest of your lineup. Is Muncy day-to-day? He is day-to-day, but I did see a note he's expected to play tonight. Keith, they are submitting some submissions. Feel free to say no. An official submission. Keith Eister Dongs. Now, the S, just to be clear, is a $sign. And that's KEDs for short. If you're busy, if you don't have time, we got Keith Eister Dongs. They're called KEDs. Eister's Big Fleisters. That's actually pretty good. I kind of like that one. This is for you to decide. I'm just here to, throwing out the names, but I don't want to manipulate the voting. But Eister's Big Fleisters, I think that's the clubhouse leader. You tell me. You could shoot them all down. This is up to you. This is your call. But if you have a thought. Keith the Enforcer? I don't know if that's just like an adjective. I don't think it has anything to do with like any home run calls, right? But
I don't know about. Yeah, I haven't heard anything I'm loving yet, Dean.
You don't love Eister's Big Play? Chop, you like that, right?
It's nice. It's nice, Dean.
All right, dynamite drop in. Right. Keith's Clubbers. Just Clubbers with a K. I don't know if that matters or not for you. Keith's Clubbers being thrown out as well. Well, all right, it's a quick no. You don't care what Clubbers starts with. It's a no. Crunch time coming in, and we're looking at about 25 minutes or so. You got chief meteorologist Kevin Roth. I did drop the weather report. I want to give a refresh. Last I saw, everything was green and good to go. Let's just confirm. It is. Weather Edge, we'll see if there's anything popping there. There wasn't really anything popping there earlier, but do want to give that a refresh as well. I'm going to talk about our favorite stacks in just a second. But before we do that, we want to mention Stat Hero. Stat Hero, unique fantasy sports platform that you already know and love, allows users to compete against the house instead of other players in a contest. The Searing 12 contest, that is over. But the Searing 15 contest for NBA playoffs, the Searing 20 contest for MLB Pick'em. Just getting started. Join the free-to-play contest and win to start your streak. Keep your streak alive by playing each day. Build your streak and win prizes with consecutive wins. The prizes include swag, RG Premium cash prizes, $10,000 first prize for the Searing 15, $20,000 first prize for the Searing 20. Use the promo code GRINDERS, GRINDERS, that's GRINDERS, 50% deposit bonus, up to $250. Jump into the action today on Stat Hero. Chop, stacks are all over the board today. And we kind of have that conversation. The Dodgers, if you look at our consensus rankings, myself, Dave Potts, Cheeseisgood, same person, Napster Man, Kirkwood, we have the Dodgers number one consensus ranking by a good bit. Then Atlanta, then Boston, St. Louis, Arizona, Verdugo. That's the guy I was trying to think of. Verdugo not playing for Boston. I knew there was one more regular that was out. LA, Atlanta, Boston, St. Louis, Arizona, Toronto, Tampa, the White Sox, and I gave a little bit of love to Minnesota, Chop. Your take.
Sure, why not?
Let's pick up Belak.
For the Dodgers, Will Smith and Miguel Vargas are out of the lineup tonight. If that
is that what that wow was? Okay, that's what that was.
No, the wow was just generally you ripping off the stacks and naming everybody's stacks. That's fine. Yeah, Smith and Vargas are out. Outman's in, though. Outman's good, so they got that going for them. I would say, yeah, I have the Dodgers ranked number 1 in my personal stack meter, but
still,
yeah, it's not. It's just there's no matchup that stands out so great tonight for me. So there's like everybody at the top is really close. So it's the Dodgers number 1 for me, and that's fine. Then I'm going to go maybe a little off the board. I didn't really catch all your numbers there, but I'm going St. Louis as my second favorite stack tonight, just because of the offense itself in general. I think there's some good hitters in there. And Greinke, like I just can't imagine he's like got too much left in him. So I like that one. Then I'll go chalky Atlanta. Just for their power. Then we get to Arizona, attack the left-hander. And, I'll actually – people don't like this team because they say they're inconsistent, but I'll go back to the Chicago White Sox against a left-hander. I don't mind that one. So that's my top 5.
Yeah, there's some cheap White Sox out there as well. Burger's pretty cheap in second. Eloy Jimenez is cheap on both sides.
Oh, can I give away a Triple G then? Burger's going to be a home run call for me.
Really?
Yeah, I like him in the matchup against the left-hander. I'm going Burger as one of my plays today. I don't say play of the day. I say suggestion. I'm just suggestion of the day.
Now, what is the difference again?
Play of the day kind of sounds like I'm guaranteeing this guy's so good, he got to play him today. I'm just suggesting there's numbers there that suggest Burger could be a good player tonight.
By the way, Tim Anderson's been terrible this year. Just throwing that out there. I don't know if he's dealing with injuries or whatever, but it's like all singles, no homers. I don't know what to do with him because like I saw people ranking him high, and I'm just like I don't think I like Anderson. There's your mush play of the day for sure. Hey, Daryl's got a question in chat. Do we know of any credible working MLB lineup optimizers? Well, RotoGrinders has one. My current lineup optimizer keeps creating invalid 5-man Fanduel lineups. Well. Daryl, I don't know if this is a troll question or not, and maybe it's a legit question, but on FanDuel, you can't play 5 players from a team, so that's why they're invalid. You can only play 4. On DraftKings, you can play 5, but you cannot play more than 4 hitters on a specific team, so that's the reason why you cannot make a team with your optimizer on FanDuel with 5 players from that same team. Keith, your thoughts as far as stacks, and I assume, well, you tell me, you're making 20 lineups? Are you just going to say, these are my 3, and I'm going to be over the field in those 3? Are you spreading out and just hopefully you land on the right combination? Dodgers, Atlanta, Boston, St. Louis, Arizona, Toronto, Tampa, Chicago. That's the White Sox. Minnesota. Do you like that list? Is anybody too high? Is anybody too low? Who's not on it? Should we kick somebody off? What's your thought?
I like the list. I don't have a ton of conviction today, like I said, so I'm just kind of spreading out a little bit. I'm getting different enough with my pitchers by playing a ton of Gilbert and Ryan that I'm fine playing into some chalk. The Dodgers are in a great spot against Irvin, who walks too many people. The Braves against, I think Sears is a pretty decent pitcher, but that Oakland bullpen is horrible. I don't think their ownership, just because of the ballpark, I think, and the massive slate, I don't see anybody as over-owned here today. So I'm good playing chalky stacks. I will, of course, differentiate a little bit. Arizona is one that stood out to me, certainly against Kyle Freeland. The White Sox being too cheap is very interesting because it does make it possible to pay up for two of those studs. I will throw the San Francisco Giants into that mix as well as a team that's really cheap. It's pretty easy to stack them. I'm not terrified of Johan Oviedo. He's another guy that walks too many people, strikeout rate around 20%. And the Giants have a bunch of 3K bats that you can get up to 2 10K pitchers with as well. So I like them. Minnesota against Belak. Like Minnesota strikes out too much, but the Royce Lewis addition makes it pretty easy to stack them. So certainly like Minnesota. I don't know what to do with Boston. Obviously it's a great ballpark, and we talked about Lively a good amount. But I do think that lefties are going to give him problems. Devers is one of the best hitters on the slate, obviously. And then they have a couple cheapies also like Tapia and Cassis, which it makes them pretty easy to stack. So I'm officially on board with Boston, I think. I'm paying attention to what Lively is doing and whether he potentially is in the middle of a breakout, but I do like Boston.
Yeah, you mentioned Minnesota. That's my sneaky one. Belak in a small sample has not looked impressive at all. He's been reverse splitsy. He's thrown for the right-hand side, and he's in Houston. The Crawford boxes are lurking out there. Down the left field line, we saw Altuve get a Crawford box homer yesterday, a grand slam. Good for him. ISO almost 300 versus righties for Belak. The strikeouts versus lefties. I'm extending this back to last season. When I'm looking at this season's even worse, depending on how you're shopping as far as samples. But I think it's 13%. Yeah, the K rate, 13.4% K rate versus lefties this season. And you mentioned Lewis is back. Buxton is back. Now they have Max Kepler. It just looks like a much better Minnesota lineup than we've seen. You could stretch it all the way up to 7. Even Taylor, like homer hunting, Taylor theoretically has power in that bat. Of course, he strikes out a ton too. But Gallo, Julien's cheap. He's got some speed. He's got some power. Correa, revenge game one of these days. He's been scuffling, but, I think there's still talent there. Obviously, Buxton, the power is ridiculous. Right-handed power against the Crawford boxes. Love Buxton today. And guys like Gallo and Kirilloff, when they get a hold of it, it goes anyway. It doesn't matter what's going on as far as the ballpark. And you mentioned Lewis. Lewis once upon a time was one of the biggest prospects in baseball. Tore his ACL, came back yesterday. He's not going to homer every day, and good for him for homering yesterday. But he's super, super cheap. And even Kepler, he hasn't been great, but we've seen him be good in the past. I'm not sure if he's washed just yet. I think that Minnesota lineup is pretty solid up and down. The problem is, Keith, is that there's a lot of good lineups, and you got to get it right. Like, even if he gets 7 or 8 runs off of Houston and like 1 homer, that's probably not going to cut it, right? You have to get a breakout team. I don't know who that's going to be. Who's that most likely to be? How much that Dodgers lineup? I asked Chop about it. He didn't seem terribly concerned. But no Will Smith. Muncie's in there. And there was somebody else that wasn't in there too. Who's the other guy that did not crack it?
Vargas is out, yep.
Vargas. Okay, he's a cheapie on DK that kind of made stuff work. But I guess Will Smith is kind of the big one. Just as a position, right, Keith? Like, catcher's good today. I know like a lot of people like to just punt catcher on DK to make everything else work, but I like the brothers Contreras. I like them both today. I like Rushman, Sean Murphy revenge game. Sal Perez always has the ability to bang one out. We've seen Alvarez jump up to the 2 spot for the Mets. I think catcher is really strong. There's actually an opportunity cost as far as catcher. Are you dealing with catcher a little bit differently than you typically would?
I'm completely on board with you that it's a strong position today. William Contreras, I don't think I'm going to stack against Kikuchi, but I'm certainly chasing home runs against him. William Contreras has been awesome against lefties. You mentioned Francisco Alvarez at just 3,100 in the 2-hole. Love that. Gabriel Moreno for the Diamondbacks is somebody I'm going to be playing a ton. Has the platoon advantage. He's down in the 8-hole, but he's 3,200. Yeah, it's a much stronger position. Blake Sable for the Giants is somebody I'll play. And that's just in addition to the elite guys that you named. The Rutschman, Murphy, Wilson Contreras, throw Salvador Perez in there obviously as well. So yeah, agree. It's a really strong position today.
This is a good question, Keith. I'll ask this to you because Royce Lewis is going to be somewhat chalky. Shortstop position, 2K on DK. He's also 2K in Fanduel, which is useful, but it's more useful. Like 2K guys on DK are just really, really useful. I think he's going to be one of the most popular plays in the slate, and I think he's also going to be a guy that's going to rise in single entry stuff. How are you handling that? I don't know if you're hand building like a single entry team. Are you embracing the Lewis chalk? Is it bad chalk? Is it good chalk? Or you're somewhere in the middle on it?
So I don't hand build my single entry teams. I will generally build a set of 20, or what I actually do is I build like a set of 100 and I pick out my favorite 20 from that 100. I think Royce Lewis will only be in a stack for me is how I will differentiate that. Like, I don't think the Minnesota stack overall is popular in any way. I do agree that Lewis could get some steam in single entry and in smaller field contests. But I generally play mostly stacks anyway. I try to 5-3 mostly, but I am okay with 5-1-1s. I'll just make sure that Lewis doesn't appear as one of those one-offs.
Yeah. Let's see. Depending on which projection model you're looking at as far as the BAT or the RG projections, the BAT's got Lewis at 14-15% ownership and as the highest owned player on DK today, and it's 14%, 15%. Chop, you have a thought as far as Lewis, or just I know you're playing more so on Fanduel where he's 2K and the savings is not as necessary. It's nice, but it's not as necessary. And there's other plays on Fanduel that aren't that much more. Thoughts as far as Lewis, or just maybe just shortstop in general?
I mean, Lewis is fine. He didn't jump off the page to me, but I like your call on Minnesota. I don't think Bielak can, I don't think he's particularly good, so I don't mind that call. Lewis is okay. Shortstop in general, like, it didn't jump out. There's some good players, but I'm not running like it's catcher is a stronger position than shortstop today to me. Like, and on Fanduel, where you don't have to roster a catcher, that's where you can gain some difference right there. People don't want to play catcher in the utility, but like, why not, man? There's some really heavy hitters. So for shortstop, Lewis is fine. I think the other guy that really stands out to me, I like Gunnar Henderson at that position tonight. So I like Rutschman and Henderson. So I like Baltimore as a stack in general. Yeah,
I wanted to pick on Quantrill too. Just the absence of Mullins.
I rostered Quantrill this last start. Man, he stinks, dude. So I'm all in on stacking against him today.
That's it.
Bad taste in my mouth. I got to do it.
We got some questions loading up in chat. Yeah, load up your questions in chat. We'll get to as many as possible until we hand it off to Crunch Time. Crunch Time coming in 10 minutes. Cheap and just Kevin Roth. You got Dave Potts, Cheeseisgood, as well as Derek Carty, the CEO of the Bat and the Blitz. Let's see, Keith. Don Yeezy says Ohtani or Trout homers versus Giolito, or both. Who homers in that game? Good ballpark to homer in there.
Both could certainly do it. Giolito is reverse splits. Mike Trout is reverse splits. So if I'm picking one, I'll go Trout, but they're both awesome today.
Chop Allen, game stack question. Angels and White Sox as a DK single entry game stack. I know some of us don't like that term, but I understand what they want to play White Sox and Angels. How do you feel about that as a stack? Single entry.
Man, I mean, I like the White Sox. I don't hate the Angels. I don't love them, but if that's what you like, I don't. This isn't like football or basketball where you can catch overtime and you can, there's things, and then or one great offense and can pick up the pace of play and it can affect the other. This is baseball, man. So I don't really feel the need to game stack unless we were talking about a field where Kevin Roth is predicting a massive upgrade in the weather. And so I don't see that tonight right offhand. So I don't think a game stack is all that big of a deal in baseball.
Kind of neutral conditions according to Weather Edge in Boston. Slight tick of homers for the Mets at 13%, 44 game sample. Neutral essentially in St. Louis. 178 game sample for Tampa and the Cubbies. Winds blowing in 8 miles per hour, 22.9% as far as a hit and homers. So it is a good pitching environment. Shout out to the Stroh show, Keith. I don't think that Stroman was that yes? That was yesterday, right? Got my days confused. Yep. CGSO?
Indeed. He was awesome.
Yeah. Was it all ground balls? There's some strikeouts mixed in too, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
He did have 7 or 8 strikeouts too, but yeah, he was putting it on the ground early and often for sure.
Otherwise, weather-wise, 440 game sample in San Francisco. That's a huge sample. Slight hit as far as homers, 12%, 6% hit as far as runs as well. Despite the fact the wind's blowing out to left center at 11 miles per hour, it is 57 degrees, but also that ballpark was built in a way where it's subduing wind. Okay, other questions here in chat. This is a Keith question, I think, because you're at least in those projection conversations. Hoosiers hang banners wants to know why. Any reason why Gallen's floor is so low on lineup HQ? Is this something you have a part of, or you kind of tinker with, or I think you're on the projection team to some extent?
I am. The floor and ceiling is something that just pulls off of the general projection. It's not anything that we manually have inputs for. I'm just pulling it up to see what it looks like right now. He has the highest floor on the slate, according to what I'm looking at.
That seems like that's just a glitch. That can't be right.
Gallen,
that's got to be wrong, right? Yeah, that's got to be wrong, right?
Why would Gallen having the highest floor on the slate be wrong?
I thought you said the lowest floor. I apologize.
Highest floor on the slate, unless it's. Let me refresh and make sure I'm looking at the same number.
Okay.
9.25. Was it DK or FanDuel? I apologize.
It was not specified, but like if it's the highest, like then
that makes sense
like
to me, right?
They have to refresh. Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
So two people, Chop, are talking about Mr. Richards talking about the stacks value, like in Pittsburgh, and Mark Vaughn says Pittsburgh are my favorite stacks. Chop, if Pittsburgh gets there today, I am closing the laptop and I'm losing American dollars. I'm not playing Pirates. Are you playing Pirates? How do you feel about the Pirates?
Well, I'm not going to completely mark them off, take them out of my player pool. I think there's still some pieces there that are okay. It's not great, but yeah, I'm not as negative as you. I'm not like jumping out of the chair to go play them, but I'm not as negative as you. Like, they're all right. They're okay.
Well, I mean, there's 26 teams playing, right? Well,
yeah,
where are we ranked Pittsburgh today? 19, 17, 22?
Yes. Yeah, in the 20 range. It's bottom third, but it's like you said, there's 26 teams playing, so somebody is going to go off tonight in a 4-man stack. Why not Pittsburgh? Like, they've done it before. Why not? Let's go. There is some talent there if they get it. I'm taking a look.
Because they're not as good as everybody else, and they're in a bad ballpark to go off. Yeah,
but it's baseball. Who cares? No, sometimes that doesn't matter, Dean.
Well, you asked. You said why not? I answered the question.
There's talent there. They've got some talented players. Some talent. Like all it takes is a 3-man. Huh? You don't think Brian Reynolds is good?
That's one.
McCutcheon.
Okay.
So if we're gonna bring in Minaya as the long reliever and he's a lefty, McCutcheon is clearly on the board.
You got two. Now give me a third.
What about? I'll go Key Brian Hayes. If he gets on, he can steal you 2 bases.
Seen Brian Hayes?
Well, listen. About a year ago, we were talking about him as a potential cornerstone for that franchise. You never know. He's got the talent, so it could happen. Who knows? All right, Dean. Listen, I'm not. I just said they are a bottom third for me, but this is baseball. Like I mentioned to you the teams that I think have no shot tonight. Those are the teams I put like X's on right now.
You said the Yankees have an X.
Yes, against Logan Gilbert, I do not.
I'm on board with that for the record.
I do not want.
He got a big reaction from you.
I don't want any Yankees. I don't want any Colorado against. I don't want any Washington tonight. Like, there's a combination of a lot of things. The quality of the other pitcher and the batters in the lineup. Those are all X out. Pittsburgh is not an X out for me. So I think there is something there that, even if it's a 2 or 3 man stack, that's all. That's a stack technically.
By the way, Alex saying haters gonna hate Pittsburgh. As a neutral fan, I like the Pirates, and I think Pittsburgh's a city that'd be happy if they somehow won a championship. Not happening, not with this iteration, but I'd be rooting for him for sure. Keith, Joseph wants to know Austin Riley or Francisco Alvarez. This is probably a utility question on FanDuel, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I love both of them today. So that's, and it wouldn't be a conversation, I don't think, if Alvarez didn't get the bump to the 2-hole, but because he did, that's just that much better for him. I'm still going to lean Riley, but I love Alvarez today also.
I don't want to answer this question. Chop, you answer it. Alex has Freeman or Hayward, like 2 Dodgers or 2 Dodgers. Freeman and Hayward or JD Martinez and Outman. Which twosome do you prefer, Chop?
Freeman and I guess the Freeman side. Freeman and whoever that was you said.
Looks like Senzel was scratched for Cincinnati. You probably weren't playing Senzel. Friedel, McLean, India, Fraley, Stevenson, Steer, Newman, Benson, and Fairchild. I'm not sure who jumped in that lineup. Is it Newman who jumped in there, or was he in there before? I think it's Newman. That's annoying because he's a contact guy, but he's not good. Yeah, that's the guy who jumped in, right? I think so, Keith. Okay.
Yes. Yep. Newman was not in the original.
Yeah, we missed O'Neill Cruz. Unfortunately, he'll come back at some point theoretically this year. He's not officially donezo for the season.
But there you go, Dean. There's a cornerstone for you, O'Neill Cruz, if he can get healthy.
Yeah, I like him. He still hasn't really done anything, but like in small doses, he looks spectacular, and he strikes out too much and whatever. But like as far as the tools, they're spectacular. Atlanta lineup is out: Acuna, Olsen, Riley, Albies, Murphy, Ozuna, Pilar, Arcia, and Harris. So no Rosario.
No.
Yeah, Pilar, who typically sneaks in for him when a lefty comes in. Pilar is going to start the game, which I guess that makes sense. And maybe Pilar could spell Rosario later on in the game. Is there a reason why Sears only threw like 59 pitches last game, Keith? It was 5 innings, pretty clean. And were they in danger of winning? And they said, we got to put a stop to this. I remember I was watching with the volume off, but that was kind of strange, right?
Yeah, that was strange. I don't think there was any injury situation surrounding it. It's concerning. I mean, it's good for Atlanta, I suppose, because I think Sears is one of the better pitchers they have. If the earlier you get into that bullpen, the better.
Mark's talking about Rodolfo Castro versus Minaya. And we don't know for certain if Minaya is pitching, if he's throwing baseballs tonight. But okay, sure, yeah. Switch hitter.
If you think Minaya is going to be in there for several innings, Castro is actually by the number. It's probably, if we're looking at just straight up the stats, he's their best. He's their best against left-handed pitching, if that means anything to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of makes my point. He's fine, but we're not thrilled with the roster.
This, would you call a 338 ISO versus left-handed? Is a 338 ISO in a vacuum? Is that a good number? That's not a weighted on base. That's an isolated power.
I understand, but what is that? Okay. 40 at bats?
No, it's 150 at bats.
Oh, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay, Dean. So
give me 9,980 more, and then Derek Carty is satisfied.
All right, Carty, little Carty.
When he's 47 years old and retiring, we'll know if he was good. We'll have the sample size to figure it out. Keith, we got Acuna and Pilar versus Betts and Ozuna running a Braves and Dodgers stack. So Acuna, Pilar, Betts, Ozuna. So we're stacking both those teams together.
I would go the Betts Ozuna side of that.
Stan wants to know if you have any interest in Arizona. Chop, I believe we touched on Arizona. We like Arizona a good bit.
Yeah, actually like Arizona a little bit tonight. Gallen's good, and on the flip side against Kyle Freeland's decent numbers. I don't think they're real numbers, so I would definitely don't mind the Ketel. Who was it? Marte is going to be my BVP player of the day. How about that? Ketel Marte, BVP player of the day.
Do you have the official stats to throw? Or just people just going to take your word for it?
I was looking at it earlier. What jumped out was there wasn't a lot that the algorithm singled out, but Marte was one of them that was fringe, and I'm going to play in Marte as my BVP player of the day.
There's an algorithm.
Dean, we've done about two shows a week this entire month, and I've said algorithm every single time, and it's just now jumping out to you that there's a BVP algorithm.
I don't believe that. It's just, it's not an algorithm, but I can see he's got 44 plate appearances, 37 official bats, 12 hits, 6 singles, 4 doubles, no triples, couple homers. but I don't know how the algorithm factors in. But okay,
Yeah, I know. Well, it's proprietary. I can't give you that out on the air.
You know, strikeouts are in it. He has mentioned strikeouts multiple times.
Absolutely, Keith.
Do you have a promo code that I can get access to this? Possibly the algorithm you speak of. I'm intrigued.
We'll see. We'll see if there's a spot for me since Randone is now unemployed. Maybe there's a spot over there for it, and I can get the promo code for another site for you.
Wait, Randone was still doing content? I thought that ended like 3 years ago.
He had a resurgence in his career, but it lasted about a week. He is currently unemployed. Allegedly. This is all alleged.
I just went to pull up his Twitter and I see that I'm blocked. So
why are you blocked? What'd you do?
I have no idea. That guy sucks though. I don't know. That's like honestly the best block you could ever have. Like I'm kind of proud of that one.
Is there anybody, Dave? No, nobody's ever blocked Dave, right? Dave, you've never sent a mean more than anybody. Are you blocked by anybody you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. I hope so. Just for some reason. I mean, it would be great, but yeah, I'm not aware of if I am. Can you check?
I don't know how to check. Is there a way to check to see who, like, if somebody has you blocked? I'm not really sure. You have to individually go through. And
let's just say that somebody does. Yeah,
Carty, you happen to know anybody blocking you by chance? Somebody's got to somebody's definitely blocking Carty.
I'm sure there's people blocking me.
Yeah.
Are you liberal with the block button? How many people do you think you have blocked, give or take? Over, under, like 70?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, way under.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't really block people. I'll mute people on occasion, but I don't know if I have anybody blocked.
I feel like Roth has probably blocked some people coming at him for weather.
Yeah.
Some dumb takes.
When you put the over under at 70, I laughed to myself. We need like 700. First off, it's no longer a fair comparison because you have to block all these not trolls, but like bots and stuff.
Bots, yeah.
So now like my block number's out of control and it's 80% bots. But I think if it was just straight trolls, I've blocked at least 200, like easy.
That's awesome.
That's actually a number you can check.
Bots for sure.
Yeah.
You say, hey, I think Zach Gallen's good. And it's like, have you tried Bitcoin?
It's always crypto.
All right. Chop, Keith, we got anything else for the boys? So we step aside and get out of here and make way for the FanDuel sponsored Crunch Time?
We're good. Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, before we go, I just want to run this by you guys. You guys can kind of marinate it. Keith shot this down. We're trying to give Keith a gimmick. You guys give your answer. Feel free to be as honest as possible. Dave, Carty, Roth. We can call Keith's homer, like the Spidey bombs. Chop's got his Triple G thing. The Juggalo bombs for Kirkwood. Eister's big flightsters.
It's so bad.
That's good.
It's so
I think
bad.
that's the opposite.
It comes back around.
That's amazing.
Right. It's so bad that it's kind of good. Yeah. It's
I would follow that on Twitter for sure.
Yeah. I'm in.
All right. FanDuel sponsor Crunch Time. You got Roth. You got Carty. You have Dave Potts. It starts now. Take it away, Roth.
Let's do it. Hey, welcome to it. Good stuff, as always, by the way, by the flagship crew. Welcome to it, ladies and gentlemen. This is Crunch Time. It is sponsored by FanDuel, and it's the show where we get two of the sharpest minds in the biz, bringing you that good, juicy DFS content that you crave. One, Mr. Dave Potts, a.k.a. Cheeseisgood. What up, Cheese?
Not too much. Big old slate. Lots of everything. So good times.
Not lots of everything, because there's one thing conspicuously absent from the slate, and that, my friends, is the weather. Yeah, and that's a good slate. There's no real weather issues. Winds are blowing in Chicago. Winds were blowing in a little bit stronger yesterday, and I think they scored one total run, but also I think there were some pretty good pitchers there, or at least one pretty good pitcher. In any other ballpark, I wouldn't care, but in Chicago, a 5 to 7 mile per hour wind does matter. I think Carty is nodding in agreement, maybe at that stadium.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a bump to pitchers there in Chicago just because of the wind, but it's not a massive, massive bump.
And that's your boy Shane McClanahan.
Shane O'Mac, that was last night, right?
No, he's going tonight.
Oh, he's going tonight? I thought that was last. Oh, whew. I'm all
Get
aboard
excited.
the
Get excited.
Yeah, let's go. We got Derek Carty as well. He is the inventor, the creator, and the chief executive officer of the BatX Enterprises. What up, Carty?
Not much. How's it going?
I feel good. I've been ever since.
How was was Scotland or Ireland?
Yeah, Ireland and the UK. And I was just drinking like every single night. And now my body's adjusted. So now like I feel good. No hangovers, no nothing, man. So I feel like I should keep this train rolling. Good times over there in the UK across the pond. Carty, how are you, my man?
Doing pretty good. We missed you the last week plus, but we held the fort down, had some good fights, so you got to avoid that, and things are good.
I'm glad to hear it. Hopefully you guys have gotten it out of your system while I was away. If not, perhaps, no, definitely not. We'll see what kind of, cans of worms that we open here. Let's dive into the content side of things. Cheese, you want to kind of lead us off a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the overview is simply there's a lot of everything in all price ranges. Like you've got several aces priced up in like 10, 11K range. You've got good mid-tier pitchers. You got some cheap stuff. You've got like a pretty condensed, condensed is not the word I'm looking for, an uncondensed, a wide open hitting slate. Like maybe a couple of teams that are borderline chalky, but like you could kind of put like 10 teams in a top tier. So there really is truly a ton of everything. So while we're going to give you like, hey, we like this and this, you could build 100 lineups with players that we aren't even going to mention that are great.
Okay. Well, let's kind of do it. Let's start with some pitcher thoughts. And I think, Cheese, let's start with you going through pitchers, and then we'll work our way over to what the Bat X believes over there with Carty.
So I'm kind of separating it into pricing tiers, like just to start, where we've got these four aces who are really similarly skilled with Gallen, McClanahan, Joe Ryan, and Logan Gilbert. Gallen and McClanahan are kind of the two obvious best spend ups, and I don't think anything's going to qualify as chalky, but I do think Gallen will be the highest owned pitcher, and he's a little bit cheaper than McClanahan on both sides. So I think Gallen's kind of the go-to SP1. McClanahan as the pivot on FanDuel, or the if you can double spend up on DK. Got like Gilbert and Joe Ryan and Bryce Elder's kind of there on FanDuel pricing wise. They're all in my player pool. Like these are good pitchers. I like them. But I mean, I'm trying to just prioritize more Gallen and McClanahan. So then we drop to the next pricing tier where I don't like it as much as I like Brian Bayo on DK. That's kind of like I'm jumping all the way down to 7,000 on DK. But on FanDuel, this bunched up group of like Kikuchi, Nestor Cortez, Bayo, you might include like Gonsolin or Giolito. I know the Bat likes Cortez, which I'm fine with Cortez. I like Bayo better. Kikuchi is the one I'm the most torn on. Like I have no idea. Like he's definitely not good on purpose. Sometimes he's good on accident, and it's a really nice matchup. So like I totally get it. I don't have a clue in the world what to do with Kikuchi.
Yeah.
I'm playing him here and there, but I just want to save salary on DK, and I just like Bayo better. So that's what I'm doing. And on FanDuel, as much as possible, I'm getting up to Gallen at 10-7. But like all of those guys, Kikuchi, Cortez, Bayo, for me, they're all very playable. I would not yell at you for any of it. And then super cheap stuff, which would be DK only. Like you could do like a Ranger Suarez at 5,200, but it's not super necessary. Because you can go like double mid tier and use like Bryce Elder and one of Kikuchi, Cortez, Bayo. I have a couple Ranger Suarez in like 100 lineups, but I really don't like it.
Okay. Carty, what say you in the pitcher department here? And was it Kikuchi, Cheese, that you said you were kind of like you don't know what to do with?
Yeah. Kikuchi and Cortez really both are the two guys that project well that I just don't like him as much as Bayo, and that's where I'm at, but I don't disagree that they're perfectly good plays. I'm not like anti them.
Okay. Well, Carty, I want your thoughts, and I definitely want you to focus on those two guys, or at least mention those two guys as well.
Yeah, so it's like she said, like you kind of have a top tier tonight, and it's Zach Gallen's clearly the top guy. Like you're playing him in cash on both sites. Then a little step down is McClanahan. And then after that, like the bat sees the next like 10 to 12 guys as fairly interchangeable. That includes the expensive guys like Ryan and Gilbert. So I don't have much interest in either of them at all. But there's a whole bunch of guys in that kind of weird mid-range that are fine. Cheese is right. The bat likes Cortez and Kikuchi kind of the most of them, and they're on the cheaper end. Like they're a little cheaper than like Elder, Senga, obviously Ryan, Gilbert, cheaper than Gonsolin on FanDuel. So like those are the two I think I probably have the most interest in, especially since their ownership doesn't really project to be anything crazy. And I think Cortez especially, I think has plenty of upside just based on his stuff and who he is. Kikuchi, I think, is interesting. It's like Cheese said, like he's not really good, but the matchup's pretty good and the price is fine and the ownership is fine and like he's fine. But there isn't a whole lot differentiating him from Gilbert, Elder, Senga, Gonsolin. Like the Brian Bayo thing, he's kind of at the bottom of that stack projection-wise, but he's also at the bottom price-wise. So I like Bayo too. Like I'm fine with him. Miles Michaelis, I think, is fine, kind of on the low, cheap end. He doesn't have the upside of some of these other guys because he doesn't strike a lot of guys out. But what he does have is a very long leash. So if he's pitching well, like he could throw a complete game shutout. Like that is a ceiling outcome for him, which isn't really a ceiling outcome for a guy like Bayo or Gonsolin or Elder or most of these guys. Like they're not going to throw a complete game where Michaelis can. So I think there is a little bit of sneaky upside with him. So I don't mind him in a tournament, especially because it does look like he will come in the lowest owned of these guys. Ownership's going to be pretty spread, but I think he's interesting enough, especially at the lower price point. So that's kind of pitcher. Gallen's the clear best. Everyone else is pretty similar. Take your shots where you will.
Okay, let's say in cash, like on DK, you're playing Gallen and...
I think you're playing either Gallen, or you're definitely playing Gallen, and either Cortez, Kikuchi, or Bayo. And I don't have a strong lean on any of them. I think any of them are fine. Because again, they're all fairly the same, and those are, Cortez and Kikuchi are on the cheaper end, but also on the higher end of projection. Bayo's on the lower end of projection, but you get a good discount on. So whichever way you want to go is fine.
Okay, that works for me. All right, let's talk about some of the stacks where Cheese kind of said off the top. It is condensed. No, not condensed was whatever the opposite of condensed. It is uncondensed. It is an uncondensed pool there, stack-wise. So Carty, is there chalk or no? Because everything's good or everything is kind of good.
Yeah, the bat sees hitter ownership as being very spread out tonight. It doesn't see any team as really being chalky. And so it's the kind of night where you should definitely have exposure to a bunch of guys or a bunch of teams because there's not a lot separating them in terms of projection. And it's also the kind of night where you don't have to do anything too weird because, again, you don't have to worry about ownership. So the team the bat likes the most is Boston. Just straight up, it likes Boston the most. Their pricing is actually really good as well. So they're my favorite stack. And after that, there's like 12 or 15 teams that you can stack and be fine with. You have the White Sox, you have Philly, you have the Cardinals, the Rays, the Braves, the Jays. There's like 10 more of them that are just like, they all project basically the same.
Okay. So Red Sox at the top of your list and then whatever you want beyond that.
Yeah.
Cheese, let's hear your list here stack-wise. And I need something because right now both of you are telling me pitchers, there's one dude and then play whoever you want. You can't tell me the same for stacks. Like otherwise, what are we doing? We got to tell people something.
Tell you. I mean, if you can only play one, I would play the Dodgers. Okay. It's not as good since Will Smith is not in the lineup, but that actually makes it now you can afford them. So the Dodgers are my top, but it really is like they're all so close. My next tier also includes Boston, St. Louis, Arizona, Atlanta. Okay. That will be my official top tier.
So let's just talk about a slate like this in general, where you've got this spread out ownership. Is there a certain strategy to this, Cheese? Are you just kind of scattershotting a little bit of everything? Are you full stacking all of these teams? Like, what's the game plan? What's different here when compared to, maybe where there's more chalk?
Yeah. So for me, I am trying to play this, even though there's all those pitchers, I am condensing my pitcher pool quite a bit. Like I'm way over the field on even a chalky-ish Gallen, McClanahan, and Bayo. Like I'm just saying, hey, this is what I'm playing, so that I can spread out a little more at offense. I have completely crossed more things off my list today than usual. Like usually I would have like I have like 0 Cubs today, and 0 Rockies. Usually I would be like throwing in a couple, but I am trying to, and I X'd out quite a few just bottom of the lineup players on the weaker teams. So I am spreading out a lot, but unlike some days, I didn't just leave everybody in the pool either.
I got you. Okay, interesting. Let's kind of dive into it player by player, as we like to do. We go around the horn. We like to start on Fanduel, and I mentioned off the top of the show, this show sponsored by Fanduel. I didn't have the Fanduel read up. We'll get to that in a little bit. Cheese, talk me through catcher.
All right. This position kind of died out a little bit with both Will Smith and Cal Raleigh out, which is probably going to lead to more ownership than there would have been on Sal Perez if those guys had played, not because people want to spend up at catcher, but because I think people had their lineups made. And if you had Smith or Raleigh and you don't want to rebuild your whole lineup, it's pretty much Perez or Rutschman. I think that the chalkiest player overall will be William Contreras. Keep in mind, we always have the 2 Contrerases. I like William of Milwaukee as the one-off and Wilson of St. Louis and the stacks. But now with Smith out, I do think it's even more viable to punt. Contreras is not a punt, but 3,800 is a very nice price. Like he's kind of the obvious cash game guy. But you can do something like Austin Barnes or Sebi Zavala, Alejandro Kirk. I don't mind any of these cheap guys, but it's not a great position. I like Perez and Rutschman, but compared to other spots, it's not a priority spend.
Okay, Carty?
Yeah, like Cheese said, it thinned out a little bit. I think Salvi and I think Wilson Contreras are both really good. I like Wilson Contreras the more of the two, given the discount you get. And then, like Cheese said, William Contreras is the guy in kind of the mid-range that makes more sense. I think you can play any of those 3 in cash. I think Francisco Alvarez at 3.1 is also totally viable. And, Gabriel Moreno's fine as a cheap guy, or if you just want to go all the way down, like Austin Barnes would be your guy.
Okay, very good. Hey, did I mention this show is sponsored by FanDuel? Make sure you sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook if you're in a legal sports betting state. Take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. New customers get the no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions apply. Make sure you're taking advantage of that. It is the smart thing to do. Carty, move it along to first base.
So I should mention at first base, or on FanDuel rather, playing Wilson Contreras is viable. He's 2.7K. He's really cheap. And the only first basemen that project better than him are Paul Goldschmidt, Freddie Freeman, and Vlad Guerrero, and they're all significantly more expensive. So if you want to go down and just play Contreras on FanDuel, even though you don't have to play catcher, I think you totally can do that. Otherwise, your top guys are Goldie, Freeman, Vlad. I think they're all good. They're all facing kind of bad contact-oriented pitchers, so they all have plenty of upside. They're all going to be good. I think I probably like Freeman the most of them, especially on DraftKings. He's a little bit cheaper than the rest. On FanDuel, you probably prefer Goldie because he's kind of the cheaper and best of the 3. But I think it's also fine to go cheap at first base tonight. Part of the reason why I think it's fine to do Wilson Contreras. Tristan Casas is a guy that I like I mentioned. Boston is one of the best teams tonight, if not the best team. They're at home. They're in Fenway. It's the best park on the slate. They're facing one of the weakest pitchers on the slate in Ben Lively. And so a cheap Tristan Casas, I think, is totally fine. A cheap Seth Brown, I think, is totally fine. Yeah, that's kind of first base.
Okay, very good. Cheese, your thoughts?
Goldschmidt is my favorite. Also love Freeman. Like those guys are both fantastic. And then on DK, Ohtani is fantastic. Although I like first base enough that I prefer to use Ohtani in the outfield. Christian Walker is another guy I love. This ownership, like there's so many positions, like it just has to get so spread out. I don't think anyone's going to play Walker. I don't think anyone's going to play Pete Alonso. And like, yeah, I like Goldschmidt and Freeman better, but like play these guys too. Andrew Vaughn is another DK cheap guy, along with Mikasas Sukasas, and Joey Gallo is first base and outfield and affordable-ish. Every position is loaded. I can name 42 players here.
Okay. Can we name
how many there are? But.
Can we? Because I'm looking on FanDuel. He's 2K. He's got a decent projection. He's the highest projected owned.
Who'd you say?
On FanDuel. Rough, but he also has outfield eligibility. So is that if you're?
No.
No. Okay.
So he's interesting. He's leading off for Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably coming out of the game when Kikuchi does. I'm gonna guess.
Gotcha.
They have a really weird lineup going on, and I don't like him really outside of Stacks.
Okay. Second base, Cheese.
This is the only position that's not super deep today. It's actually not terrible as second base goes, because we do have Mookie Betts now on both sides as a second baseman, so he's the spend up. Ketel Marte and Brandon Lau and Albies really on FanDuel are too cheap. None of these guys are that expensive on FanDuel, but like Gorman and Betts are kind of the spend ups, and really Marte, Lau, and Albies are about the same difference. So I do like all those guys.
How are they the Cheese? You are aware Albies is facing a lefty, right? You know he's just a lock button auto play anytime Ozzy Albies is facing a lefty, right?
Because he's a masher.
He's a lefty masher.
He is. You're not wrong.
Yeah. Carty.
I actually, in all seriousness, JP Sears is really pretty good, but like they pulled him at 59 pitches. I don't think for any actual reason last game other than they're the A's. I don't think they even want to win. Like I feel like we aren't even going to get that much Atlanta ownership.
Wait, no. But Cheese, here's the thing. The other thing is you have to play anyone against Oakland pitching. Oakland pitching is the worst. So Sears can't be good because Oakland pitching is the thing you have to play against also, according to chat and Twitter and people who overreact to small sample sizes.
You're done.
But Oakland is, I mean,
you got Oakland
Oakland
pitching and Ozzy
right.
Albies lefty masher against a lefty. Like, come on.
But it is a good play, right, Carty? Like,
It's fine. It's no better than any of these other guys.
All right. You want to name some of the other guys for me? No.
The guys Cheese was trying to mention before I cut him off like a jerk. Ketel Marte, Jose Altuve, Brandon Lau, Gleyber Torres. They're all kind of there. I think on FanDuel, Marte is the one I like the most. Marte or Lau, just because they're on the low end of the pricing spectrum. And like all those guys are basically the same. Nolan Gorman is in that mix. Jonathan India is in that mix. It is like a better position than normal because they're all like pretty good. None are great, but they're all like pretty good. I think on DK though, you probably try to find a way to get up to Mookie. If you have to punt, we do have Adam Frazier leading off for 2.7K and he's probably fine.
Okay. Easy enough. All right. How about third base, Carty?
Rafael Devers. Boston's my favorite team tonight. Devers is the best hitter in their lineup. On FanDuel, it's very easy to get up to him. On DraftKings, he's 6'1", so you don't have to, but you should try to. If you're not getting up to Devers, I think Max Muncy and Jose Ramirez and GPPs are great plays, or in cash, if you're not getting up to him, going down to Jake Berger at 3.3 is totally viable too. And Justin Turner, obviously, in your Boston stacks, you probably play him it's tough because you have Casas, you have Devers, you have Justin Turner. I like Turner too. It's not like Red Sox are going to be so chalky that you need to be like different about it and like fade Devers, I guess. So I guess Turner's maybe more first.
Okay. Cheese?
third base is pretty great. Every position's pretty great. Muncy is my favorite. Jose Ramirez and Devers are right there. Like, they're all great. I think on DK, Muncy and Ramirez are enough cheaper than Devers that I would just play them on DK. I mean, on FanDuel, you can kind of afford any of them, and definitely consider playing 2 third basemen out of those guys. The salary plays are more on the DK side, where Jake Berger, for example, is super cheap. And then there's tournament home run plays at low ownership. Our old friend Arenado, Austin Riley, Eugenio Suarez, like, all these guys just fly under the radar because they have to, because of the size of the slate. And that's really my whole pool outside of stacks.
Okay. Shortstop.
So if you're going to full punt somewhere, it's Royce Lewis, which is better as a full punt on DK, where the salary gap is huge between him and everyone else. On FanDuel, like, Bobby Witt's only 33, Trey Turner's only 28, Tim Anderson's only 28. So I don't think there's that much need for Royce Lewis. He's fine. Carlos Correa at 29. All those guys make, like, Wander Franco and Bo Bichette kind of unnecessary unless you're full stacking something. But that's a lot of good players, just like every position. If I just have to pick one position to punt, like, this would be it anyway. So that makes me like Royce Lewis a little more. But as far as those spend ups, I'm going with Bobby Witt first.
Okay. Carty, your thoughts at short? As you continue to fight with people in the YouTube?
I agree. I don't think you have to spend up at short on DraftKings tonight. Going down to Royce Lewis is probably my preferred course of action. On FanDuel, where that salary savings doesn't get you as much, you have Trey Turner for $2.8K against Senga. So I think you probably just pay up for Turner. But Bobby Witt is good. Franco's good. Correa is good. Tim Anderson. Like, they're all fine. They're all fine today.
All right. Outfield.
I owe the chat an apology. I checked on the Albie splits. He's got
legit.
Yeah, I mean, not as extreme as what he's done for his career, but someone said in his career he's at a 95-point split. The bat hasn't projected for a 64-point split, which is a lot. That's a big number. So I apologize. Ozzie Albies significantly better against lefties.
Wait, well, Potts, Cheese, we've had a breakthrough.
I know. I never thought we'd see the day.
He had a bad take, and then he took it back. He said, you know what? I mean,
it's all about the facts. Normally, for most guys, the sample size isn't big enough. It's not extreme enough. Switch hitters, it does stabilize a little bit quicker than like it does for like right-handed batters. So that's probably part of it. So yeah, but if I'm wrong, I'm going to admit it. I go by the facts, not by whatever. Like, the projection's right here.
What people think. The chat saying we need to clip this. We need to post this apology, the first ever Carty apology. Izzy says next Carty apologizes for the Rangers after they win the World Series.
No, hard pass. Rangers are super overperforming.
And Derek says Carty's the best, by the way. We give you a hard time, but it's all in love. Okay, hey, did you take me to the outfield yet? I don't know. You didn't. Right?
Yeah, outfield. So,
yeah.
Ronald Acuna is probably our top guy. You don't have to get up there, but you can if you want to. Ohtani and Trout, I think, are really good tonight, especially in GPPs, but on FanDuel Cash, I think they're both some of the better options because the prices are reasonable. It's a nice park upgrade. It's the best park in baseball for power. Giolito is a fly ball guy that can give up home runs, and they're Trout and Ohtani. So I like both of them quite a bit tonight. On the other side of that game, Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert, I think, are both really good plays. They're both going to have platoon advantage against Tyler Anderson. Again, it is the best park in baseball for home runs. The pricing on those guys is really affordable, so I like them quite a bit. I like some of the cheaper Boston stuff. Obviously, I like Boston a lot tonight. You have Tapia for 2.2 on DraftKings leading off. You have him for 2.5 on FanDuel. I think he's a fantastic play. You have Jared Duran hitting 5th for the team tonight, so I think he's really good. On FanDuel, outside of Tapia for cheap stuff, you have Seth Brown, who I think is viable. Kyle Schwarber, the Phillies on FanDuel in particular, I think at their pricing and with the scoring structure over there, I think they're really nice. Schwarber in particular.
Okay. By the way, the YouTube chat says a few comments here. T from Loke says Ozzy Albies lefty masher. Noted, Carty. Mike Mahoney says the baby made Carty soft, which I really liked. And John says, quick, let's talk about Arenado. We're on a roll. All just excellent comments there. Good stuff. All right, Cheese, what are you doing in the outfield?
I'm playing all the players because they're all good. It's really hard to narrow this down. I mean, I guess I will say Ohtani is my top spend up. I mean, I like all the spend ups. I like Alvarez, Trout, Judge, Acuna, Betts, Julio. I mean, I like them all, but Ohtani will be, if I just get one spend up, that's who I'm going to take. On FanDuel, as usual, like the salaries start to condense pretty quickly. We do have like Acuna and Alvarez are like crazy expensive comparatively. And that's what makes like those Angels guys a little more interesting. And yeah, the Schwarber thing, like he's not really much of a play on DK, but very much play on FanDuel. We haven't mentioned all the White Sox everywhere, but generally across the board, there's a lot of cheap White Sox that'll probably be kind of popular on DK, but I think Eloy will be the most popular of them. I do think he's the best kind of low 3K play. But there's plenty of others. It's just even at the cheap end, I don't know how to really narrow them down. And what you consider cheap, like Ozuna, I like. MJ Melendez is 3,500. Taylor Ward, I know we were waiting for Taylor Ward to hit, but he's cheap because of it. And then you can go like crazy super cheap, more so on DK again, like the Dodgers. Like Hayward and Peralta are basically free. We've got, I mentioned Ozuna, who's free. AJ Pollock sitting fifth, he's free. Joey Gallo is not free, but I like him as a mid-tier home run play for 4,000. Brendan Donovan is free. Carty mentioned Tapia, he's free. They're all free. And pretty good. So play whoever you want, and they're all great.
I realized, sorry, go ahead.
No.
Once we're done with outfield, I realized I forgot to mention my favorite GPP pitcher tonight.
Oh. Okay, well, we got to get back to that. Who is it?
Sean Manaea. I'm curious what Cheese thinks about him, but he's cheap and in a really good spot. The only issue is that we have no idea how deep he's going to go into the game. When he's come in after an opener, he's thrown any, like you do. Hold on, let me pull him up.
It's crazy. Yeah.
It's
like
insane.
20 pitches or 90 pitches.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
yeah,
That's basically it. So if we get the 20 pitches, he sucks. If we get the 90 or 100 pitches, he's amazing. So the bet right now is projecting like 45 because it's like splitting the difference. But
that's not true. It could be.
Yeah. In a GPP, the upside is like he's like one of the best pitchers on the slate, and he's cheap, and no one will have him.
Interesting. Okay. Cheese, any interest there?
I do think he's worth a shot. Like I think he is worth a shot ahead of like Ranger Suarez, Tyler Anderson, who that's what else is down in that price range. Mm-hmm. I wish he was just like dirt cheap. And I wish they would say, like, for real that he's definitely pitching or tell us what they're trying to do with the guy. But, yeah, I actually agree. He's a very interesting GPP play. DraftKings only.
Okay. Let's do some home run picks. People are always asking for it. They're always wanting the bombs. And, Carty, you've got a program that can literally tell us the most likely player to hit a home run. And it's usually, like, Yordan Alvarez. But who is it today?
I'm going to guess it's Ohtani, but I'm going to take a quick look.
Okay, let's do it.
It is Trout.
Oh, so there you go.
Yep,
all
but
right.
Alvarez is second, Ohtani's fourth.
There you go. My guess was better than yours. No big deal. Any other guys that like kind of stand out to you that maybe you want to, that aren't obvious? These guys are going to hit home runs kind of plays.
I mean, Jake Berger, I don't know if he's like super off the radar, but he's cheap. He's in a great spot tonight. I think Jake Berger is really good. And if you're doing betting, the best bet tonight is, you guys are gonna love this one. Austin Barnes plus 1425.
Wow. Okay. So you gotta get some big shots sometimes. All right, Cheese, you got a home run pick for me? There's so many good plays that I know you hate this.
Yeah, there's a ton. Like for a high end, I will go with Maximum Muncy. On the random low end, we'll go with Juan Yepes.
Okay, very good. We have somewhere between 10 to 15 minutes here until we hit the lock. Let's open it up to some QQs. Hey, make sure you hit us with that thumbs up. This is free content from literally two of the sharpest minds in the biz. So make sure you're hitting that thumbs up. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe. Make sure you're hanging out with us every single day. We do this every day. We did this yesterday, and it was Memorial Day. We literally do this 7 days a week all the way through baseball season. So make sure you're doing that. Hey, Robert says, not pertaining directly to the slate, but how is Carty handling Soroka going forward after 2.5 years off? His stuff looked okay last night. I don't know if this is something you've monitored yet, Carty. His average exit velocity last night was 82 miles per hour.
Yeah, exit velocity I don't care too much about. His velocity's up a little bit. He's a guy that the bat liked coming into the year based on what he's done historically. I have a lot of him in season long, so I'm invested in Soroka. I hope he does great. I think it's still a little early to tell. He wasn't awesome in the minors, but he was working on things. He was getting healthy. They knew he wasn't 100%. That's why he started in the minors.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see another couple starts from him.
Okay, cool. Good stuff. Jumping over to the RG Discord here. SA says, is Weather Edge down? I don't believe so. It was down earlier. We had this tech issue, had to reach out to the weather data company. It should be fixed, and I can check real quick. But I do believe that we're back to business after it being down for most of the day. No, it's not. Yes, Weather Edge is down, to answer your question. That's frustrating because I thought it was all fixed. I'll figure that out with them. Sorry about that. That's pretty annoying. Next question. FanDuel Cash 3v3. Carty, I'm coming to you. Lau, Devers, Goldie, or Albies, Riley, and Polar Bear Pete?
Lau, Devers, Goldie, or Albies, Riley, and Pete.
Yep.
It's the first one, Lau, Devers, Goldie.
Okay, very good. Cheese, Joe Ryan coming in at 2% owned versus the Stros. I'm going crazy. I'm crazy going his way over Gallon, who struggled his last two starts. I
think
crazy?
he means, am I crazy? Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely not crazy to play a low on Joe Ryan. I would just say play him because he's Joe Ryan. Don't worry about that Gallon has struggled his last two starts. Just say it's just an ownership play and Joe Ryan's good. Like, you don't have to try to pretend like there's something wrong with Gallon to like Ryan.
Okay. DK Cash from Arlo, Devers, Duran, or Justin Turner, Acuna?
Devers, Duran.
FanDuel's single entry Cheese, Riley or Devers. Also FanDuel Cash, same guy, Ohtani or Luis Robert?
Devers, Ohtani.
Very good. FanDuel GPP, Carty, your favorite pitcher in a GPP. You just paying up? You just...
I mean, Gallon's the best. He's going to be the chalkiest. So if you're playing, I mean, I guess there is really no such thing as a contrarian stack tonight. Like, It probably is just like Gallon. If you don't want to play Gallon, though, then maybe it's Nestor Cortez.
Yeah. And Cheese, I feel like that's your strategy, right? Is just
just play Gallon is my strategy.
Yeah.
Although I mean, I don't, again, McClanahan and Ryan and Gilbert and even the cheaper guys are close enough. I wouldn't talk you off of that either.
Okay. FanDuel Cash question for you, Cheese. Trout and T. Anderson or Robert and Jimenez?
Trout, Anderson.
Ball says DK Cash, Peralta, Hayward, or Tapia?
Tapia.
Ink Magma says, are there any teams that are more owned than they should be? Now, I know that there's no one that's chalky, but are there teams who are kind of up there with the guys that you would consider in a good tier that you think the ownership should be much lower?
If there is one, I think the only one that could even have an option to be that is the White Sox because of their pricing. But I just think the ownership is so low on everything. I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. It doesn't really matter. Okay. MT Red Sox says, hey, they are a similar price on DK. So, Cheese, would you go Longo or Rivera in an Arizona stack? They both play third.
Yeah. I wish I thought either one of them were going to stay in the game. I guess I would go Rivera.
Okay. Scrolling up in the YouTube chat, I'm going to take some of those questions right now, and we will start with Derek, who says Carty, Hayward, or Peralta for you?
I know Peralta's a big pinch hit guy. I think Hayward probably is at this point too. Let me take a look real quick.
I think, though, Washington is still leftyless in the bullpen.
Oh, are they? Well, that makes
they don't have
difference
a
then.
single one.
So then you probably go, well, then I guess either one. I probably like Peralta a little more then.
Okay. Eric says Paredes or Berger on DK, Cheese, last spot.
I mean, Berger's the better play, and not chalk, but 8 times the ownership of Paredes. I would still say Berger is the play.
Yeah. All right. DK cash question, Carty. You want Freeman, Frazier, or Belt and Mookie Boots?
Freeman, Frazier, or Belt, Mookie Betts?
Yep.
Probably Freeman, Frazier.
Okay. FanDuel cash, Cheese. You want Ketel Marte or Albies or both? FanDuel cash.
You probably don't need 2 second basemen in cash, even though I think they're both viable. I guess I'd go Marte.
Okay. DK single entry. Cheese, I'm back to you because Carty's got the next one here. What are your thoughts on Julian and Lewis to cover second base and shortstop at the min as a cornerstone for your build?
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. Like those are the places to save if you want to do that.
Very good. Brian says, what does the bat think about Bichette tonight over on FanDuel? Carty, is Bichette making the grades?
Bichette's fine. It doesn't like him quite as much as like Trey Turner, who's 1,000 less, but the top shortstops are all pretty clumped together tonight. Bichette is in that mix, but he is on the expensive side. So honestly, I'd gravitate more towards the cheaper high-end shortstops.
Okay. Grenade back into the Discord real quick here. He says, in a spend up for DK cash, Freeman or Goldie? I think the answer here is yes, but Cheese, if I'm correct, you slightly preferred Goldie, and Carty, you slightly preferred Freeman?
On DK, I prefer Goldie too.
Oh.
Or wait, no, hold on. I'm getting my...
I think he's saying he can afford either, probably.
Yeah, if you can afford either, I think it's Freeman. Yeah, and on DK, Freeman's a little cheaper. So yeah, I like Freeman a little more.
Cheese.
And I prefer Goldie a little more, but they're both awesome.
Yeah.
All right. DK single entry. Pick one. This is another, these questions are tough. Pick one. Judge, Ohtani, Trout.
Yes.
Yeah. Like it's just
Ohtani.
Yeah. Ohtani. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Scale of 1 to 10 at FanDuel GPPs. How much faith do you have in the Yusei Kikuchi experience? Or do I just play Bello for $100 more? Scale of 1 to 10. And I think he said FanDuel, right?
Yeah. I don't think you're playing Bello for more than Kikuchi. Like Bello's a thing on DraftKings because he's a lot cheaper. On FanDuel, I'd much prefer just playing Kikuchi or Nestor rather than Bello at that price.
So how much faith, to get back to the question, in Kikuchi? Scale of 1 to 10.
Oh, like a 6.
A 6.
Yeah.
Cheese.
3.
Yeah, yikes. Okay. FanDuel GPP. Cheese, is tonight a night where you don't mind playing all the Boston left-hand bats due to Cincinnati not having many lefties in the bullpen?
Yeah, I would just play who you play and don't worry about it. There's one lefty back there. Maybe someone gets pinch hit for, but I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay. Jumping back into the YouTube chat here real quick. I might accidentally skip some questions. That's my bad. DK's single entry. Cheese. JD Martinez or Ozzy Albies? I'd move Mookie to second if it's JD.
JD or Albies? Yes. I guess if they're not part of a stack, I guess Albies.
Okay. Carty, last one on FanDuel, a Rosarena or J Lau, or maybe it's Low. I don't know. I hate those guys.
I mean, I don't think you're playing either one in cash. You're dealing. They're pretty similar. I think I like a Rosarena more. But again, GPP only plays.
Okay. Mark Vaughn says, any interest in a Seattle stack Cheese versus Nestor?
Yes, but I prefer just power hunting, just like a Teoscar here or a Rodriguez there or Suarez over there.
Yeah. All right. How do we feel about Bello in a DK GPP? You both really, it's fine, right?
Yep.
He's my favorite
Yeah,
for the salary. Like,
okay.
That's where, yeah.
I mean, he's no Sean Mania, but he's good for the salary.
All right. Jeff Morgan says, hey, how would Cheese stack Arizona bats tonight optimally with no salary restrictions? You got all the money in the world, 5 bats.
So definitely Walker and Marte for sure. Then Gurriel and Carroll are next for me. And then it would be positional need, probably Ahmed or Moreno.
Okay. Pick 2 stacks, Angels, Boston, and White Sox. Feel like the answer is Angels and Boston, but I don't know. Well, first Boston and then Angels, but maybe I'm wrong.
It's definitely Boston for me. I probably like White Sox more. I mean, Angels obviously have the high-end guys, but like a full stack I don't like as much.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cheese?
Yeah, Boston first. I prefer the Angels, assuming you have the salary to just play the top 5.
Yeah. All right. Does Carty agree that the Padres, by the way, we're like a minute or 2 until lock. Does Carty agree that the Padres, Blue Jays, and Phillies are the teams who simulate well enough on MLB The Show, but are bad real-life MLB teams?
No, they're all 3 are elite MLB teams. They're all like top 7 or 8 in baseball. They're just going through bad variants to start the year.
Yeah, that happens. Fix says, DK GPP, what are your thoughts on a Wander Franco one-off, Cheese?
I think that's interesting because shortstop is kind of the weak link with spend ups. So
Spend up. I love it. FanDuel GPP, Devers or Riley, Carty?
Devers.
Goldie or Betts, FanDuel Cash, Cheese. Is a util.
Goldie.
DFS Dre, DK Cash. Maybe the last question as we're coming up on lock here. Muncy and Justin Turner or Devers and Casas? Mi Casas, su Casas, Carty?
Devers Casas for me.
Okay, very good. See if we can squeeze anything else in here. DK GPP, Oviedo and Robert Jr. or Bello Gallo?
Bello Gallo.
All right, very good. Hey, we hit the lock. Good job, everybody. Someone said Phillies are elite, question mark. They are, right?
Yes.
Is that a joke?
I said they were. I think there's definitely some people who think they're not.
That was me. That wasn't a joke.
Oh, was a Mets fan? Okay.
Yeah, no, Phillies are elite. I mean, Phillies are in the exact position they were at this point last year. They were underperforming. They were getting bad variance, and they wound up going to the World Series. I'm not saying that's what they're going to do, but we've seen this before. They're a good team. Teams can underperform for 2 months.
Yeah.
Would it surprise Kevin Roth to know that the Padres and the Phillies have both scored 100 runs less than the Rangers this year?
Than the Rangers?
100. Yes.
I thought you were going to say the Rays, and I was going to be like, well,
and the Rays.
Small sample sizes. I don't know what does.
I know. I'm just asking Kevin if he's surprised to hear that.
That's pretty surprising because
100 runs in 2 months. It's a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because I thought that the Rangers couldn't hit and that they didn't score any runs. So that is weird, Cheese, when you said that. I don't know where I had heard that from, though. It's must have got some bad info somewhere along the line. I don't know. Hey, with that, we are going to bounce on out of here. Excellent show, gentlemen. Great work with both of you. As always, we're going to get on out of here. So for Cheese, for Carty, for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. We will catch you tomorrow. You have been crunched.